Rokudaime by Maverick 9871. Chapter 1. A 16-year-old Naruto sighed as he looked at the ship in front of him. He had a worried look on his face, because only he knew what was really going on. Some people had parts of the puzzle, but not like him. For his entire life, he had lived a lie, and now it was time to come clean. Akatsuki was destroyed. The Sound Village and Orochimaru eliminated. Everything seemed like it was going great for the Leaf Village, but that was a lie. He looked around and noticed that everyone was here now. The Kazekage Gaara and his sibs. The Hyugas, Akimichi, Inuzuka's, Aburame, Yamanaka's clan heads, the Hokage herself along with all of the Rookie 9 and Guy's team, but Sasuke along with the senseis, Ibiki, Anko, Genma, Ayame and her father, Tazuna, and a few others assorted guests. A memory flashed in his head of the princess of Snow Country and her family. He smiled at that, and Sakura saw it, and for the first time this trip he was happy, and she asked, "What's got you happy now, Naruto?" Naruto looked at her and said, "I can't wait to see Yukie again." "You remember her, right?" Sakura laughed and said, "It's a little hard to forget the princess of Snow Country after what we went through all that trouble to save her." It was right before Sasuke left. With her smile fading a little, Naruto smiled and said, "Don't worry, you will see him again someday. Also, she's really became a strong leader after that time and her country has grown." Sakura looked at him and asked, "How do you know that?" Naruto looked at her and said, "I visited a couple of times while I was traveling with Eros and Nin." He asked her to be in his Aika Paradise movie. Sakura looked at him like he was crazy, and she asked, "She did not do it, did she?" Naruto laughed and said no. Her response was that only her husband would get to see her naked. Sakura let go the breath she was holding and said, "That's good that she is waiting." Naruto started up the ramp, but yelled loud enough for her to hear and said, "No, you misunderstand me. She's already married." As he finished walking up the ramp, followed by everyone else. When he made it to the top, he was stopped by one of the members of the crew, who leaned in and whispered in Naruto's ear. The crewman said, Sorry to interrupt, Naruto-sama, but the prince and princess have come to see you along with their security. They are in the king's suite, near the captain's to your left, room 101. Naruto smiled and nodded and turned to the left and walked toward the front of the ship. Gaara was looking at Naruto and remembered the note he received last month from Naruto. "Gaara, I hate to ask this of our friendship, but I need you to come to Konoha on the 15th of next month and ask the Hokage to join the mission to meet the leader of Snow Country with all of the clan heads, as well as the Rookie 9 and Guy's team and Hanabi Hyuga also. Tsunade does not know about this at all, but it was an S-class mission that I could not talk about before this time and date that the third Hokage had me do for him. I promise that once we get on the boat and far enough out to sea on the way to Snow Country, I will explain everything. This will not only affect Konoha but Suna as well, and if it does not go as planned we will find ourselves in the Fourth Great War. It's that serious, and I am not allowed to mention or even tell Tsunade I know about this until then. Please, for our friendship and anything else I have with you, do this for me. I will be making similar requests to certain other parties that are involved, and the official notice from Snow Country will have exactly who has to come. Do not act as though I know what is happening until I say otherwise. Trust me, it's more important than Akatsuki. Thanks." Naruto. Gaara looked at his sibs who he had already showed the letter to back in Suna and nodded, and they boarded the cruise-like ship also. Sakura saw Naruto nod and walked to the front of the ship, and she started to head that way also when the same man said, "I'm sorry, miss, only special cases are allowed in that section of the ship while we are still docked." She looked at him and asked, "Then why is Naruto allowed?" Getting the attention of everyone who was on the ramp. The man smiled and said Naruto-sama was requested to go there by the leader of Snow Country's private guards. That got everyone's attention because no one ever called Naruto, Naruto-sama. A certain white-eyed girl smirked at that, knowing a little about going on after what happened. Flashback: a 9-year-old Hinata was standing outside of Naruto's apartment to deliver the birthday present she had gotten for him. A pair of goggles. She was getting ready to put it on the ground at his door when she heard what sounded like a fight going on inside his apartment. Fearing the worst, she activated her bloodline and was shocked by what she was seeing. Naruto was fighting a wooden target that was moving, and what was even more surprising was what he had on. He had an ABNU uniform on except the mask, which was on his belt as he fought. She was so shocked, she failed to notice the person who walked up behind her. The third Hokage said, "Let's go inside, Hinata. By the expression on your face, I think you accidentally uncovered something you should not have. We will talk about it, and I have a proposition for you." Hinata was first scared until she saw the person behind her was the Hokage, and as she listened to him she calmed down and they entered Naruto's apartment and had a talk that would change her life forever. End flashback. A man who Team 7 members knew as Tazuna smiled as he knew what was going on because he had agreed with the third to help in return for what he did. Flashback. The third looked at Tazuna and said, "I agree to send protection and only charge you the C rank, which is the price you can pay even though I know it is an A rank. I will be sending one of my best ninja with you on this mission, to make sure things work out along with a side mission. He will contact you at a later time down the road after the mission has been completed and tell you what needs to be done to pay the mission. He will give you the code phrase, Kitsune ka ge. Until that time act as though you were scared and your country was too poor to pay. He will make sure once the team finds out the true rank it continues and is completed." End flashback. He could not believe what it was that had to be done for this, but he had requested just like he was asked along with the other thing that was more of his area of expertise. Acting as the leader of Wave Country was just a plus to it, but it was all worth it. He grabbed his bag and climbed the ramp. Hayashi was not a happy man. First, he was asked to come to the Hokage Tower with both his daughters and Niji, and then he was told they all had to prepare for a trip to meet with the leader of Snow Country for something that could lead to the destruction of the Leaf Village. He first was going to refuse until he was told the other 7 great clans had also been given the message along with a list of others that were requested by name. Never in all his years had he ever seen anything like this. It did not escape his notice that not only had the Kazekage made the request, but also the leaders of Wave, T, the traveling merchant, the leader of Snow Country, whoever this person is, Waterfall Country had sent message only as had the Rainbow Country. Whatever was going on was being backed by some of the more wealthy villages in the world. He did not know what it was, or how it was all connected, but was told that the third Hokage was involved somehow. Tsunade looked at her teammate, who seemed to be down for some reason. She was shocked at first when she received all the requests from these different countries along with a scroll that was written by her sensei, the third Hokage, that told whoever was Hokage to do as requested by the parties that came to the current Hokage. At first, she did not know what they all had in common, but thanks to her assistant Sakura she had learned they did have one thing in common. Even the group of ninja that had been requested. Ibiki, Enko, Shizune, Irika, the Rookie 9 and Guy's team with their senseis, the Konohamaru Corp. All of the clans of Konoha and the only other main member of one of them. The cook from the only ramen stand in Konoha along with his daughter Ayam, and Dustin, the owner of the Wolfclaw weapon shop. Herself and Jiraiya. The only common thread was Naruto. Somehow he was involved, she knew it, and the way Jiraiya was acting he knew all or at least some of what was going on, but since he told her that the leader of Snow Country had sworn him to secrecy until the time was right, he could not because the repercussions were grave. She hated being left out of the loop. When Sakura started to make a scene about Naruto, it confirmed that he had something to do with this. After everyone got on board, the whistle blew, and the ship left the docks on the one-day trip by sea to Snow Country. Tsunade, after they were out at sea for about an hour, called for a meeting with everyone involved. 15 minutes later, she looked at everyone and said, "Is this everyone?" Everyone looked around and Kakashi said, "It looks like Naruto not here." Tsunade sighed and rubbed her temples and said, "He better not be picking up your habits, Kakashi. Sakura, can you go and find him quickly?" Sakura nodded and left the room and was heading toward the front of the ship when someone who looked like an Abinu landed in front of her and said, "Can I help you, Miss Sakura?" Sakura was startled and asked, "How do you know my name?" The man said all of the escort security was given info on the people who were coming on this trip. Sakura nodded, knowing similar situations like this before, but not on such a large scale, and she said, "I was looking for my teammate Naruto." Another figure landed beside the first, and he was dressed like the first, except he had his mask off, and it shocked Sakura by who it was, and he said, "Sorry Sakura, the Dobe is busy visiting the prince and princess of Snow Country right now, and they are not to be disturbed." Sakura stood like a fish out of water and finally asked Sasuke-kun, "Is that you?" Sasuke smiled and said, "Yes, I was asked to help with security along with Itachi here," pointing to the man who was beside him. Sakura pointed her finger at the taller of the two and said, "Itachi, as in the Itachi you left us for to kill, the same Itachi that worked for Akatsuki, the same Itachi that was after Naruto. Itachi took off his mask and said yes, but there is a lot more you are not aware of. By the end of this trip all questions will be answered. Come on brother. We need to check in with Haku and Zabuza. I will inform them and Naruto-sama about your needing to see him. Sasuke nodded and both left as swirls of leaves, and Sakura stood there for a few minutes as her brain tried to reboot before turning around and walking back to the group location. When Sakura entered the room everyone could tell something was wrong, and Tsunade asked, "What's wrong Sakura, and where's Naruto?" Sakura looked at her for a few moments and finally snapped out of it and sat down and said, "I think I just lost my mind." Tsunade looked at her warily, and Ino said, "What's new forehead?" Sakura still looked out of it, said, "I went to find Naruto when somebody who looked like an ABNU appeared and called me by my name." Sasuke then appeared beside him dressed almost the same and said Naruto was with the prince and princess of Snow Country, and then he acted all chummy with the guy next to him who removed his mask and he called Itachi, and they seemed to get along, even though I checked the body of Itachi myself and saw he was dead. They then left and said they had to meet Haku and Zabuza, who both died on our wave mission. A chuckle could be heard and everyone turned and saw it came from Tazuna, and he said, "No, they are alive and are members of the Elemental Village Security Force directly under the Shodaime Elemental Kages." Kakashi screamed, "But I killed Haku with a Chidori and Zabuza died fighting those bandits while he killed Gato. How can they be alive?" Gaara asked, "And how is Itachi alive?" "I saw his body myself." The door opened and Haku walked in with Zabuza, and she said, "I was asked to make sure you are all doing okay. We still have a long journey ahead of us, and we want everyone as comfortable as possible. Naruto-sama will be here shortly as soon as he can get away from the prince and princess." Kakashi looked at her with big eyes and asked, "How are you alive?" "I killed you." Zabuza chuckled and said, "Those were blood clones. The Rokudaime Hokage had to make us disappear so we could work without the hunters after us to prepare to help the Leaf Village with what is happening." Tsunade looked at them and said, "There is no Rokudaime Hokage. I am the Godaime Hokage, and the only person I have considered as possible Rokudaime Hokage is Naruto, but he is not ready." "Who is this person?" Haku said, "I'm sorry, but the Sandaime appointed this person with permission from the two heads of the council in secret, and he has been waiting and preparing for what is to come. He was only allowed to give his existence only if you had refused to become Godaime Hokage, or at this time now if the missions failed. I can't say any more, because he will have to tell you the rest himself." The Sandaime had to be careful with the situation at hand, or it would have meant either the death of everyone in the Leaf Village or the enslavement of everyone. Hayashi asked, "But how is that possible?" Naruto walked into the room and said, "Tell me Hayashi, could the Leaf at any time in the last 30 years stand up to the combined power of 16 villages at one time?" As he walked to the front of the room and leaned against the wall, shocking everyone by what he was wearing. He no longer had on his black and orange suit, but a normal black ninja jounin outfit with a white cape with orange flames across the bottom and sleeves, but he also had the kanji for Rokudaime Hokage. Tsunade looked at Naruto and asked, "What the hell's going on?" "The only thing that all of this has in common is you, so start explaining, and what is with the outfit you have?" Naruto sighed and said, "Zabuza, Haku, please join Itachi and Sasuke in patrolling the ship for unwanted guests and also keep an eye out. I don't trust that war horse more than I can throw him. He fucked the village over too many times, and by now, the elders have informed him like I told them to." They both nodded and said together, "Yes, Naruto-sama." As they left, Naruto waited until the silence was broken by Tsunade, who said, "Start talking Naruto. What is this Rokudaime stuff they were talking about, and what is going on?" Naruto motioned for the empty seat with the others and said, "Have a seat. This will take a long time, and that question I asked you Hayashi was not a simple question. That is exactly what we are facing." As he walked to the front of the room and sat down on the ground in a lotus position, Tsunade said, "I am not moving until know what is going on." Naruto leaned down and rolled up his right pant leg and put his hand in a ram sign and said, "Kia." And a distortion was seen and a tattoo appear that only Tsunade knew meant. She looked at him and asked, "How do you have the secret tattoo of the Hokage Naruto?" "Only someone approved by the heads of the council and the Hokage could have that." Naruto motioned for the chair again and she sat down looking dumbstruck, and Hayashi looked at him and said, "It is impossible for any country to stand up to the might of 16 countries at one time, and it is also impossible for them to join to do that because of their different views and opinions." Naruto said, "I wish that was so, Hayashi, but because of certain events it is really possible. It all started before most of the people in this room were even born. Can anyone in this room tell me how exactly the Second Great Ninja War ended? And Jiraiya, you might want to stay close to Tsunade. When I reveal some stuff about the past, she might try and kill herself or perform Orochimaru forbidden jutsu to bring the Sandaime back to life so she can kill him." Jiraiya nodded and sat beside her, and she was looking at Naruto waiting. Shikamaru said, "The Second Great War ended when all the great countries decided no victor could be had, as they were all going broke and the loss of manpower was too much to have. They had a peace agreement that was only known by the people who attended it as to what was decided." "Why?" Naruto shook his head and pulled out a scroll from his jacket before opening it and said, "Exactly right. The agreement was a sign of neutral hostilities. However, what is not mentioned in the history books is that the 11 minor countries had wanted to attack the 5 great nations after that because most of the fighting took place in their lands. The 5 great nations pleaded with them because it would have sent the economy of every nation into debt and into another endless war. A neutral party of the 5 great lords of the lands had decided to intervene and fix the problem before it got worse." Inoichi said, "What does an event that happened nearly 70 years ago have to do with what is going on now, Naruto? I don't understand." Naruto looked at the scroll and said, "I have the treaty that was signed. The neutral party had made an agreement with all the smaller nations to pay for the repairs to all the damage that was done. In exchange, the 5 great country would pay a tribute for 50 years to the neutral party to repay them for helping solve the problem. However, they covered themselves and they made each of the parties involved, the 5 great nations and the 11 smaller nations, that should any country fail to repay the debt in full, then the other countries had to help the neutral party claim ownership over the village that was in default and everything inside, including clans, bloodlines, buildings, money, ninja and techniques, and villagers as property. In other words, it would be 16 countries against 1. Inoichi said, "But surely we paid this so we would not have to be forced into slavery by this deal." Naruto said, "We were fine until the last 10 years of the original contract, when a certain member of the Leaf Village decided he wanted his own private army during the Third Great War, and he intercepted the payments as spoils of war. He took the money and formed Root. The Sandaime never found out because of the war until it was too late after the war had ended, when the neutral party asked to the total amount due at that time because they did not want to force the deal. Since our economy was crippled by the war, we were unable to pay it, so the Sandaime came up with a plan that bought us some time that unfortunately was interfered with again, but by someone else, so he had to use another plan, and he did that by training me to get the money for the village and also a failsafe should outside interference happen again." Looking bored while everyone was looking shocked, Sakura said, "But you are an idiot, Naruto. How could he train you and do what you claim? It does not make any sense." Kakashi said, "The Sandaime trained you, but how? I was your teacher, as was Jiraiya. How could he have trained you?" Naruto took off his jacket and had a sleeveless black shirt on underneath and put his hands in a ram's seal and said, "Kia." And a distortion appeared on his left arm and a tattoo appeared that most of the adults recognized, and Naruto said, "I was in ABNU for 4 years before I was 10, Kakashi. I had to show the village that I was an idiot to make them not look too closely at me because of their hate. I was trained to do missions solo, and I was also under Itachi before we had to kill part of the Uchiha clan." Making several people gasp. Ino asked, "Why did you kill the Uchiha clan, Naruto?" A voice from the back of the room said, "Because after they found out what was going on by Danzo, they started betraying the Leaf Village by giving vital information to Iwa and Cloud. It was the Uchiha clan council that had given Cloud info on how to kidnap Hinata, as well as information on when prized ninja were out on missions to either be killed or kidnapped. The night that we killed them, we had originally went to capture the Uchiha council, but they resisted and my father sided with us. It wound up where it was those loyal to my father and the Hokage versus those that were loyal to the council. As it ended, only 10 Uchiha were left alive, and another lie was created to try and help the village as everyone turned and saw Itachi Uchiha standing there. Gaara looked at him and his sand started to shoot for Itachi, only to be stopped by a group of vines and roses appearing and stopping them, making everyone look and see a pair of blonde-hair kids under the age of 4, and they had blue eyes, and a little girl said, "Don't hurt Uncle Itachi, Daddy. Mr. Sandman not going to hurt him, is he?" Naruto smiled and said, "No, Yuna, Uncle Gaara not going to hurt the guy who was giving us secret info on Akatsuki. He was just playing, happy to see his friend again. Now what are you and Erashur doing here? Daddy thought you were asleep." Making everyone sweat drop at the thought of Gaara playing and calling Itachi his friend. If it was not for the fact the little children were in the room, all hell would have broken loose. The little boy walked over and looked at the sand and was poking it and looked at Gaara and said, "Can you make sandcastle, Uncle Gaara?" Making everyone sweat drop even more. Yuna smiled and walked up to Naruto and got in his lap and said, "We woke up when Uncle Itachi came and checked on us, so we wanted to see you, Daddy." Naruto smiled and Tsunade finally asked Naruto, "Who are these kids and how do they use my grandfather's wood abilities?" Naruto reached into his coat and pulled out a seed and made it grow into a red rose and said, "Yuna, I want you to go and give this to the pretty lady there. Her name is Tsunade and she is your great-grandmother I told you and your brother about." Yuna smiled and got up and walked over and she said, "Hello, Granny." Tsunade smiled at the girl and took the rose and said, "What do you mean I am her grandmother and you still have not answered my questions?" Naruto sighed and said, "I know, and the answer is one of the reasons I never call you by your name or title. That's one of the lies the Sandaime told to try and keep things under wraps. You may not want to remember it, but you did have a child once. The Sandaime told you that you had lost it because of the attack, but that was a lie. You had a baby boy who was my father. He did it to not only protect both you and him from your enemies, seeing as you had started collecting them at that point, but also to ensure that our family line did not end by accident. I have known since the first day we met in that bar. I wanted to tell you, but as a Hokage, I was not allowed to because the needs of the village was more important at that point." Tsunade had a few tears in the corner of her eyes as she remembered those events, and she hugged the little girl some more and said, "Who is he, Naruto? Who is your father?" Jiraiya said in a sad voice, "It was Erashur Kazama, the Yondaime." The Sandaime lived up to his name as the professor by outsmarting everyone as long as possible. I did not learn about it until the kids here used one of their bloodlines when Naruto had me make a trip here during our 3-year training trip. He had got away with tricking me the whole time we were here until we were leaving, and Yuna here called Naruto Daddy and made a flower like Naruto did a moment ago. Erashur came running up and said, "Hey Daddy, look what Uncle Sasuke showed me." And he made a few hand seals that made Kakashi eyes go wide and lightning started to form at the tips of Erashur's hand. Naruto smiled and said, "I'm proud of you, son, but what have I told you about using jutsu when not in training areas or in fights, and did you learn it right or copy it?" Erashur rubbed the back of his head and said, "I forgot, Dad, and I copied it. It's boring to learn it the other way." Naruto shook his head and said, "Until you learn to use it right, I don't want you to use it again, or I won't teach you the Rasengan when you get older, and I don't care if you can just copy it. If you don't know how to use it right, and what else it does, it can be used against you." Sakura finally had enough and jumped to her feet and screamed, "Rasengan Naruto, he is just a child and does not have a fox in him to help heal him, and I know what that other jutsu is also. Chidori, what the hell kind of father are you, and when the hell did you become a father, and who is their mother?" Yuna laughed and said, "Uncle Sasuke is right. You are a pink hair banshee." That did it. Almost everyone started to laugh at Sakura over that one, and she had a twitch. Naruto coughed a fake cough and said, "Erashur, Yuna. Daddy still has a lot of things he needs to talk over with his friends, so go play with Uncle Itachi and ask Auntie Haku to show you how to fix boo-boos." Both kids pumped their fist in the air and ran out screaming, "Yeah, more jutsu." When they were gone, Naruto turned back to the room and everyone had a look of explain on their face. Naruto cursed himself and said, "First off, Sakura. That jutsu was not the Chidori, but something called Right Ton, Nerve Shock. It is a D-rank jutsu. We have been teaching him and his sister both defensive jutsu to help protect them since they were 2 years old, seeing as they have enough chakra for a normal genin and are actually nearly genius level. Erashur could give Shikamaru a good run and Shoji and go. We did it while Akatsuki was still out there, as well as any enemies of mine or my family has out there. I had to keep secret about them even existing until now, for fear that someone would either capture them or kill them to get to me. Now as for how they came to be, when Team 7 came here to help Yukie to reclaim her throne from her uncle, I had already been told what to expect on this mission, as I had a side mission to make sure her uncle never caused her problems again to gain an ally and possible financial help. It was one of the last missions the Sandaime had for me before he died. During that mission, Yukie and I sort of bonded, and after the mission was over and I was in the hospital, she confessed her feeling for me, and I had also developed feeling for her. Kakashi said, but you were completely covered in wounds after that, and I left Sasuke with you to keep an eye on you while me and Sakura returned to notify the Hokage of the mission. Naruto nodded and said, why do you think he was my best man at my wedding that week, and as for my wounds, I had the fox heal them quickly for me. Anyways, I told her about the real me and about the truth of Kyuubi's attack in my family, and she did not hold it against me and even supported of it. I also told her about what was really going on. When I left to return, I did not know it, but she was pregnant with the twins you all saw earlier. When she found out, she sent word to me, and I gave her my bloodline summon contract so we could keep in contact, and luckily for me the infiltration plan for the Sound Village had worked, and I was given access out of the village to go around and prepare for this stuff. Tsunade finally come out of her emotion mess enough to ask, what sound infiltration? Naruto said Sasuke defection was a setup so that we could recover the snake contract from Orochimaru and also have a spy in his village. For those who went on the mission, you will remember I nearly set several alarms off when we were fighting the Sound 5. It was a way to slow us down enough for Sasuke to successfully make it to Sound. I had my contact in ABNU who knew who I was, make sure an opening was available for him to leave. They also watched in the background when Sakura tried to stop Sasuke, but he had no choice. We both had our orders from the Sandaime we had to fulfill. They also were less than a mile behind each of our fights, ready to step in if things went for worse. I underestimated all of you on that mission as to how far you would go, or I would never have allowed it to progress as far as it did, and for those wounds, I am sorry. Anyways, since he possessed a bloodline contract like I do now, he was able to relay messages like Itachi was doing to inform me, and when he was alive the Sandaime, what was happening. Shikamaru asked Naruto, what exactly is a blood contract you were talking about? I never heard of them before. Naruto smiled and said, I'm not surprised. Most people who have them don't know how to use them or even of their existence. Blood contracts are the original summoning contracts that were kept inside family lines, but after so many summon animals either got to many summoners or none at all, they started doing the contracts they use now. Bloodline contracts don't have to be signed, but you have to have the family markers in your blood for it to work. The Sandaime knew of 2 clans that had them and knew what animals they were, so they were like a hidden trump card for us. The Uchiha family has the cats. Hinata, would you be so kind? Hinata smiled and said I would love to, Naruto-sama. And she did the hand signs after biting her thumb and slamming her hands on the ground, and a falcon appeared. Hayashi asked Hinata, how did you learn about that? Naruto said she learned it when she was 9 after she found out I was an ABNU. The Sandaime knew I would need some information when outside the village, so he told her what animal it was, and the rest is basic summoning. If you know what animal your bloodline contract was with, you just think of it while summoning. Hinata was given the mission to spy for me and inform me of important matters. Don't be mad at her, Hayashi, she was just following the orders of the Hokage. Tsunade asked, so which one does our family have? Naruto closed his eyes and said, originally, we did not have one, but we do know because of Kyuubi. That reminds me, since I am coming clean, I have a few hunches about something. If you all would not mind, perform the hand seals for summoning and think of a fox in your head while doing it. Looking at everyone, Tsunade asked, why do you want us to do that, Naruto? Naruto thought for a moment and said, according to Kyuubi, the fox contract will only work up to 5 generations of me, meaning your grandfather and his brother, your parents, you and whoever was the father of Dad is, along with 2 generations of him, Dad himself and whoever is my mother, along with 3 generations of her, me and my children, with the only exception being my wife since I got permission from the fox. Odds are Mom and my grandfather are dead, but you never know, and I would like to know if I have any other family left. Jiraiya asked, so you want to know who your grandfather and mother are, huh? Naruto said yes. The one thing I learned about the third over the years under him is that he could lie through his teeth, and you would never know, so I was thinking if he did something like he did with Granny here, I wonder what else he done. Everyone did it, and Tsunade, Shizune, and Jiraiya had a small fox appear in front of them raising a few eyebrows. Tsunade said okay, how the hell did that happen? Shizune could be because of her Uncle Dan, who was the only man I slept with. Jiraiya rubbed the back of his head innocently, however that raised a lot of eyebrows, as it was what Naruto did out of habit when he did not want to say something. Tsunade narrowed her eyes, and Jiraiya said, I can explain. Tsunade. She said, I'm listening. Jiraiya said, I was drinking with the Sandiame one night, and I hinged into Dan to make fun of him, and you walked into the bar drunk and thought I was Dan, and we kind of went into the ally, and you can guess the rest. Tsunade was pissed, but stopped any kind of attack when Shizune asked, then how am I related to Naruto? I had sex with only one person, but it was not Erasure. His name was Miso, and he looked nothing like the yondaime. In fact, he was a chunin, and I am an only child, and my uncle apparently did not have kids if Jiraiya is Erasure's father. Kakashi said, oh shit. Making everyone look at him. Shizune said, what? Kakashi made a hand sign and went up in a puff of smoke and changed into a man with brown hair and brown eyes and was the same height as Jiraiya, and Shizune pointed her finger at Kakashi as he changed back. Kakashi sighed and said, well, you did have sex with Erasure Sensei then. He used that disguise when he went out on dates, because he did not want to be with someone because he was the yondaime or his money. Shizune said, but even if that was real, I never had a child. I lost the ability to have children the year, because of a rare virus I caught that year the Kyuubi attacked. Tsunade narrowed her eyes, and said, Naruto, what did Sensei say about your mom? Naruto thought for a moment and said, he said she died giving birth to me. Why? Tsunade thought for a moment and asked, what did you mean earlier when you asked, did they copy that jutsu or learn it right? Naruto closed his eyes and opened them a moment later and opened them, getting shocked looks from everyone as a diamond was around his eyes. Shizune looked like she saw a ghost as Naruto said, the Sandiame said it was called Digen. He said I was the last who could use it. It lets me copy any hand signs jutsu like the Sharingan, but I can't see a few seconds in the future or chakra pattern or copy Jinjutsu or Taijutsu. I only use it against enemies who use a lot of jutsu I never seen before. If it's some I know, then I don't even bother with it. He then closed them and opened his regular eyes for everyone. Tsunade looked down and said, Inoichi, can I ask a favor of you? Inoichi said, sure, Rokudaime-sama. Tsunade said, can you go and look into Shizune's memories at the ones around the time of the Kyuubi attack and tell me what you find? Inoichi looked at her and said, only if it's okay with Shizune. Shizune looked at Tsunade and asked, what are you thinking, Tsunade-sama? Tsunade said, the fact that he has your uncle's bloodline tells me that he is related to you, and like you said, you are an only child. The fact you lost the ability to have children that year makes me suspicious. You were in Konoha at the time the Kyuubi attacked. I came and got you after the Kyuubi attack. Something's not adding up here. Shizune sighed and said, do it, Inoichi. Inoichi nodded and did some hand signs and entered her mind, and a few moments later came out and fell on his butt. He looked at Shizune and then Naruto and said, Shizune, may I ask a personal question? Shizune looked at him and said, go ahead. He looked at the floor and asked, do you remember how you got that scar on your right breast? Tsunade said, she got it from the Kyuubi attack. Why? Inoichi shook his head and said, she got it from the grasscutter sword. She is Naruto mom, but it appears that Naruto's actual birthday is the 9th, not the 10th like everyone thought, and Shizune went into labor after she jumped in front of an attack Orochimaru was trying to hit the yondaime with. The yondaime has someone put memory blocks on her so she would forget all about Erasure, and they made her forget everything from the moment she confirmed she was pregnant until the Kyuubi's attack. It was most likely one of my clan, but I could not tell you who since we lost a lot of members in the attack. Shizune looked at Naruto, and he smiled and mouthed later. She nodded. Naruto sighed and said the plan was for the Leaf Village to befall a natural disaster so that the neutral party would give us more time to pay the fee out of guilt, which they did, but they gave us a new contract and put penalties on the extra time. We have been only able to pay the interest up till now officially, and so we still owe the balance, and our time runs out exactly 18 years from the disaster that hit the Leaf Village. We have less than 2 years left, so I think you all can figure out what disaster it was, though the original plan was for a wildfire to burn down the old section of the village that was to be condemned after the war since nobody lived there. The Sandiame made it look like fake people lived there in the records with his original plan, but after the Kyuubi attack the official count of the destruction was taken from the fake records, so not as many people died in Kyuubi's attack as everyone believed. We can thank Orochimaru for the attack, but since he's dead it's okay. Shino said if Orochimaru had made Kyuubi upset the plan would have worked and then we could have paid the debt off. Naruto nodded and said the Sandaime and Kyuubi both told me the truth when I was 4 after I received a beating and first met the fox. The Sandaime took time and trained me and the first thing he taught me was blood clones so it could take my beatings while he trained me and then put me in A, B and U doing A and S rank missions that were all going into an account to draw interest and were completely off the books and help pay for the debt. After the Uchiha mess I had the other 8 Uchiha hide as hunter neens, but since there was no official listing for them all missions I had them do were strictly off the books and went into the account to try and save the village. However, even after 2,000 missions, we had only made enough to pay 10% of the debt. Hayashi asked exactly how big a debt are we looking at. Naruto said $200,000, 000, making everyone gasp. Hayashi asked why is it so much. Naruto said when we renegotiated after Kyuubi Danzo assassinated the first negotiator for them and they took offense. They enforced a penalty. I was only $10,000 short of the original fine with all the missions we did in secret. However, with the penalty that was another story. I came up with a plan after reviewing the contract and until my plans were finalized I could not reveal anything, but I have come up with a way to save the people and citizens of Konoha from slavery as well as all our money and techniques as well as bloodlines, and because of that no matter what I will no longer be a leaf ninja. Making everyone scream what? Dustin asked, why is that Naruto? Naruto smiled and said, after I got close to the original payment before I became a genin with the Rookie 9 I went to the lords and asked for a compromise after explaining the truth about Danzo's treachery. They told me they might have a deal if I could come up with something they want. When I told my wife about the problem after 2 years of marriage when me and Jiraiya visited she gave me permission as her husband to use something the lords would want. Spring Country itself. This got everyone attention and Tsunade asked, where is Spring Country and how does that help us? Naruto smiled and Tazuna said, since Team 7 saved Snow Country they have officially changed their name to Spring Country and have become one of the wealthiest countries in the world because of the new influence of farmlands and other natural resources since they used to be under a blanket of snow and ice, but now have the best farmland in the farmland to grow food and other products. Kakashi asked, how does this exactly work Naruto? Are you just giving them Spring Country to save the village? Naruto said no. There is going to be a tournament held in Spring Country itself and Tazuna has built an arena there for us with his engineering skills that have forest, mountains, valleys, trees, rivers. It's a 10-mile battlefield and each team gets up to 25 people to battle. That's where you all come in. I wanted to tell you the entire truth so that way you know what's at stake and ask you to join my team. Shikamaru asked who exactly are the other teams. Naruto said all parties involved get one team and the way it looks is Iwa, Cloud, Rain, Mist, Danzo, and myself are making teams. The other countries say they do not want to be involved since 4 of the 5 major powers are involved. It is going to be a winner-takes-all battle so you can guarantee deaths. I don't know what Danzo will do but I know he knows and if he wins I can guarantee with the backings of all parties involved he will make himself the leader of the village and make it like his root. Gaara asked why was Suna not allowed to get involved Naruto. Naruto said the Wind Lord decided that his country has seen enough war and does not want to risk it, but the truth is I think he was scared to confront you about it Gaara. He still remembers when you threatened to crush his nuts with you sand if he did not get out of your office after you told him you were not going to have Temari sleep with his son so he could brag about it. That's why I asked you to come also Gaara, because I need all the help I can get. I hate having to ask friends to fight but everyone in this room has earned the respect of not only myself but the Sandaime when he was still alive. So far I only have 5 confirmed people on my team. Me, Sasuke, Haku, Zabuza, and Itachi. If that's all I can get so be it, but I am fighting to win because I will not let my wife throw her homeland away for the Leaf Village and I don't care if I have to kill everyone who gets in my way. I should tell you all that whether any of you decide to get involved those from the Leaf Village will go to whoever wins, and also the head of the clans will have to come watch the battles from the observation decks to know who will get rights over them even if they are not fighting. If my team wins, I am handing all right except for Spring Country itself back to Tsunade as the Godaime Hokage, including my office, which is under a Jinjutsu in my apartment. If you remove the toilet lid in my bathroom, you will find a chakra focal point to dispel it at. I will be remaining in Spring Country with my wife and children. That's all I wanted to say, and thanks for the patience. As he got up and left in a swirl of flames, leaving a shocked room. Kiba asked who was that. Hinata said that was the real Naruto that he has had to hide because of our village for his entire life. As she got up and walked out the door, Anko said him in. Gaki beat the shit out of Orochimaru so I can return the favor. Ibiki said in case any of you are wondering, he was telling the truth about being Rokudaime Hokage. I was his contact in ABNU and had one of my men also reviewing all missions before they ever reached Tsunade, so he could pick the ones that were too dangerous for normal leaf ninja to do, like assassinating of the lightning daimyo 2 years ago. If that mission had failed or the person who did it was caught, it could not lead back to the leaf since it was done by and Uchiha, and everyone knows no Uchiha is currently loyal to the leaf. I am following the Rokudaime for his last mission. As he left the room with Anko, Shizen looked at Tsunade and said, I have some grandkids and a son to get to know. As she got up and Jiraiya started to get up when Tsunade grabbed him and said, we need to talk. And both left in a swirl of leaves. Everyone that was left looked at each other and Hana asked, so what are we going to do? Shikamaru sighed and said, why do blondes have to rule the world and be so damn troublesome? Getting a hit from Ino and Inoichi. Sakura was thinking for a moment and said, I wonder what village Itachi and Sasuke are a part of now with the other Uchihas. Getting the attention of everyone in the room. Tozuna said, officially none. Naruto has a village made for ninja that are looking for a place to call home like them if they will help defend Spring Country from any enemies it might get, so what happens to Wave won't happen to their country. All of the Uchihas live there and are happy. I know it is still small with only about 40 ninjas so far, but they are not getting involved in this fight. Naruto told them that this was the leaf's problem and he was finishing his duty to the leaf. Most of the ninja that live there are either genins that left their village after their first kills and could not handle it, or too old to do much more than play games and be with their family. The others are ninja like Naruto who want a place to be with their families, and that's how they got there. So far, the village is calling itself the Village of All Elements, and it is going to be ran by 5 Kages. Gaara asked, 5 Kages, how will that work? Tozuna said, well, the way Naruto explained it to me is the Kages are divided up into the 5 main elements. Water takes care of all the problems in the village, with health and food. Fire takes care of defense of the village and training at academy. Lightning takes care of energy and trade-related items such as businesses and merchants. Wind takes care of all the out-of-village mission as well as training after graduation, and Stone takes care of all citizens' needs that are not related to ninja, as well as maintaining help for all the missions that are D and C rank on the island, as well as protection of the leader of the Royal Council. Hayashi asked, what is this Royal Council? Tozuna said, Princess Yukie decided the people of Spring Country needed a body of government so they won't fall under a dictator like her uncle was. The people were happy but sad because they wanted her family to have some power still, so they agreed to give the royal family 33% power on the council and 1 veto a month on an issue, and they stay as the figurehead for the country. Inoichi asked, then how did she give Naruto the right to use the Spring Country in our problem? Tozuna laughed in a way that made everyone feel like they were idiots, and he said, none of you have visited the countries that he has helped, have you? In your village, he is seen as a demon or at the least a pest. In over 10 countries, he is seen as a hero. My country named our bridge after him because he showed our people the pride in ourselves that we had lost. In T country, he showed them that even when people are trying to take away from you everything, you can still stand up and protect what is precious. To the people of Rice, he is the ray of light that all evil should run from because he showed them that the only way to truly lose is to never try. In Snow Country, he had a chakra restraint put on him and he still defeated the former dictator and showed them that through courage and compassion even in a never-ending winter spring can return. When she asked to do this for Naruto, not only did the entire council approve it but also every citizen of Spring Country. It unified them to show thanks to him for what he did for them. You are all idiots for never noticing it. Even when he acted like an idiot, he still showed his strength. Niji battle against him is proof of that. And he walked out the room leaving an awestruck group. Niji, after a moment of silence, said he's right. When I had my match, Naruto was already a Kage. He beat me with just a bunshin, Kage bunshins and chakra that even though it came from his friend, it was no different from me using my bloodline. He could have beaten me at any moment, but then my pride would not have learned. Shikamaru said, I wonder if I can get a game of shogi with this kid or the real him, it might be interesting. As he left the room with his dad beside him, Ino looked at her dad and said, what are you going to do, Dad? Inoichi said, I don't know. Shino said, I am following my Hokage. And his dad nodded, and they both walked out the door. Hayashi said, perhaps we should turn in for the night as it is getting late. Choji just ate his chips as him and his dad walked out of the room. Kiba looked at his mom and asked, well, what are we going to do? His mom looked at him and said, a good dog never turns on his pack, and I for one don't want that Danzo to get control of the village. Hana said, you heard her runt. As she followed her mom out of the room with her brother a few feet behind her. Kurina asked, so what are we going to do? Kakashi said, you know what I am going to do. Dustin asked, why am I here? It's not like I have any weapons to fix or make or anything. A voice from behind them said, actually you do. Making everyone turn, and Kakashi's eyes got big at the sight of the person standing there. Kakashi said, Rin, is that you? Rin smiled and said, hey Kakashi, it's been a while. Dustin said, sorry to break up this meeting, but what is it you were talking about? Rin walked over and pulled out a scroll and bit her thumb before breaking the seal and said, I need these repaired for 3 friends. Showing 2 swords. Kakashi saw them and stuttered, but that's my dad's sword, how did you get it? Rin said, Naruto-sama been collecting the pieces in secret for you, and the other one was the Nidame's Hokage sword. He plans to use it during the fights ahead. The last one is for Sakura there. It was her dad's sword that was broken during the Kyuubi's attack. I live on the island now with my friends. Sakura was shocked, because she knew of the swords, but never thought that she would ever get to see them. Dustin looked at the pieces and whistled, and said, this is going to be fun. With a smile on his face. Tenten slapped her forehead, and said, you had to do that, didn't you? Lee asked, what's wrong? Tenten said Dad's favorite hobby is restoring historical weapons. He's a kid in a candy store. I said, then what are we here for, Dad? That would be to see your uncle I. Making her and her dad turn to look at the man who walked in the door and hugged her. Her father smiled and said, how have you been doing, Ruben? I have not seen you in 15 years. Ruben said, good. I ran into Naruto 2 years ago, and he tried to kill me for stealing your recipes, but after I told him who I was he calmed down and asked if I would like a job, and I have been working in the village in spring ever since. I was hoping you and I might come and join me and my wife. Have the family together again? I smiled and said, we will see, let's go talk more private. As she grabbed both men, knowing the last time they met they had a hangover for a week, and left the room. Genma sighed and thought, what now? Chapter 2. By the time the meeting was over, it was 10 o'clock at night. Shizune had left to find Naruto and her grandkids with a whole life of questions popping in her head. She was just about to the private section of the ship, where she was told Naruto and the kids were when a roar was heard so loud it could be heard for miles. It drew the attention of everyone on board the ship, and suddenly all the lights on the ship came on that had been turned off for sleeping passengers. Spotlights came on and started to search out to sea as everyone came out to find the disturbance. For the older generation, that sound was one that brought back a lot of painful memories. A shadow was seen approaching the ship when another roar was heard, and Tsunade and Jiraiya appeared next to Shizune and asked what's going on. Shizune looked out at the shadow just becoming visible in the darkness as the spotlights turned onto it and made the outline of a creature more easily seen. After a few moments, everyone was drawn toward that side of the ship, and a giant fox with 8 tails could be seen in blue, and a figure could be seen standing on top of it, and the closer it got the figure could be seen as Naruto. Itachi landed with Sasuke and asked, what are you doing here, Naruto, getting everyone's attention. The figure jumped off the head of the fox and glided down with flowing grace and a white kimono and gracefully touched down on the deck of the ship as everyone looked at the figure who looked like Naruto, but after further observation it was Naruto's sexy no jutsu body. The female Naruto said, Itachi, get that idiot of a brother of mine and get his ass out here. Yukie said it's time and he better not be late this time. Itachi nodded and left in a swirl of leaves, and Sasuke said, "Who has the others, Naruto?" The female Naruto turned to Sasuke and said, "They are with Karen at the Uchiha compound." Naruto appeared beside Sasuke and said, "You took her glasses, didn't you, Naruto, and what the hell are you doing here?" "I told you not to leave Yukie's side until I got back." Naruto said, "Listen, idiot. Of course I took her glasses. Yukie said it's time and for me to get you ass there now. Why else do you think I would summon Marana to bring me here in the middle of the night?" Naruto paled and said, "But they are not supposed to be here for another week." Naruto said, "It's not my fault. Now get your ass going. I will watch over Yuna and Erashur." And the fox disappeared off the water in a puff of smoke. Naruto looked around frantic and said, "Naruto, Tsunade knows, and also Shizune and Ero Sanin are related, so find out from them." As he jumped into the air and seemed to float as wind gathered around him as he floated in the air out over the sea, and then he started to do hand signs and suddenly screamed Kuchios no Jutsu, summoning technique, Kyubi no Kitsune. And suddenly a cloud of red smoke appeared, and there underneath Naruto is the nightmare of 16 years ago. The Kyubi in all his glory. Naruto said, "Kyubi, get me to Yukie fast." Kyubi said, "Fine, Kit, but remember not to call me again until the battles." And he took off running toward the way Naruto appeared. Everyone was wide-eyed, and Sakura came running up and looked around and asked, "What was that, and why is Naruto in his sexy no jutsu form?" Everyone turned to look at her, and Naruto said, "You suck, Sakura-san." A. That was the Kyubi, and B. I am not Naruto. Tsunade finally got over her shock and asked, "If you're not Naruto, then who are you?" Naruto turned to her and said, "Well, back on. I am his twin sister, Naruto." Everyone was standing, mouthed agape, and Kiba said twin and Sakura said, finishing his sentence, sister. Ibiki came through the crowd and said, "It's good to see you again, Naruto. Since you recovered and left, I have not had a chance to see you." Naruto turned and in a kind soft voice said, "It's good to see you also, Ibiki-san. How have you been?" Ibiki said, "Good, and you?" Naruto said, "I have been great, taking care of all my nieces and nephews." Speaking of, where are the other two at? Ino said, "Other two? I thought Naruto only had 2 kids, and how is it that he has a twin sister that we never seen before?" Naruto flinched at that part and looked at Ibiki-san, and he said, "Naruto has not told anyone about you yet. It's a touchy subject because of it." She nodded and said, "Well, my idiot brother has little Erashur, who is the oldest, and his twin Yuna. He also has Tsunade, Jiraiya, Orochimaru, Kakashi, Rin, Obito, Sakura, Sasuke, and little Naruto Jr., who are also born at the same time." Kiba screamed, "What the fuck? That's 9 kids born at the same time. How the hell did that happen, and why did he name those kids that?" Several people started to laugh, among them were Rin, Itachi, Sasuke, and Naruto, who said, "The answer is really simple. He did it out of respect, because even though those names are from people who either were alive or are alive, they also have one thing in common. Can anyone guess what it is?" Everyone turned and Jiraiya said, "They all are the last 3 Team 7s, but what I don't understand is where did they come from? When he was here last time, he only had the 2. Naruto smiled and said, "The little shit of a brother got her pregnant again before he left, and because of Kyubi's influence she could have them safely." Shizune asked, "What do you mean, Naruto, and are you really his twin sister?" Naruto said, "Well, a secret my brother has is anyone who gets bodily fluids like blood or gets his special abilities to heal from any wound, and also they restore the body after damage, so after she gave birth within a week, she had not only her body back like it was when her and Naruto first met, but also it repairs any minor wounds. She lost all the fat from the pregnancy. I'm glad I got the also so when I have kids. And to answer your question, Shizune-chan, I am his twin sister." Now what did he mean, we were related, and how is Ero-sanin related to me? Shizune looked around and said, "I am Naruto mother, so that means I guess I am also your mother. Jiraiya-sama is your grandfather." Naruto screamed into the sky, "Nuo." Kakashi stepped forward and asked, "Who is arriving that Naruto was not expecting?" Naruto said, "Oh, that would be the new kids. He missed the last 2 labors, so he wanted to be sure to be here for this one." Tsunade felt weak in the knees and asked, "Exactly how many kids is he expecting this time?" Naruto said, "Just 2 this times." Sakura said, that's impossible to have that many multiple births like that. Naruto smiled and said, spring countries, not the only thing fertile here. Personally, I think the fox had something to do with it, but who knows? It might be karma paying him back. Shizen asked what was it that Ibiki mentioned earlier. Naruto flinched and looked down at the deck and said, it is when an assassin thought I was Naruto and tried to kill me, or they did, depending on how you look at it. I need to go check on Yuna and Erasure. Ibiki-san, would you mind informing them? Ibiki nodded and they parted for her to walk by. After she was gone, everyone turned to Ibiki, who sighed and said it started flashback. A 7-year-old Naruto was in the Sarutobi compound where she had lived in secret for the past 7 years. She was told the truth about her brother and they saw each other when they could. Naruto had promised to come see her today, but now it was 8:30 p.m. and he had not made it, so she snuck out and crossed the village to get to Naruto's apartment. She had a key and walked in and reached for the light switch to turn on the light when someone grabbed her arm, and then she felt a massive pain in her chest and saw a kunai sticking out right by her heart. She fell, but luckily turned just enough so the kunai did not go further in. The last thing she saw was Naruto walking in the room before she blacked out. And flashback, Naruto, when he saw his sister on the ground after returning from an ABNU mission, knocked both guys out quickly. He then started to help her as best as he could, but she would die soon. They missed her heart, but were close enough that it did not matter. Sakura asked, then how did she live? Ibiki said the Kyuubi told Naruto of a way to save her by giving his blood to her directly at the wound and pumping some of his chakra into her. It healed the wound enough to keep her alive, but the mental damage was too much for her. She was trapped in her mind in shock and her body. It took her body 6 years to recover completely because of the difficulty of healing a major organ like the heart, along with the poison of the weapon. Naruto used a forbidden kenjutsu and put her mind inside the seal while her body was recovering. Ino asked why did he do that? Ibiki said so she could still experience the world instead of the darkness of the coma her body was in. He blamed himself for not keeping his promise about being on time, so he vowed to never break a promise again. Whenever you saw Naruto use his sexy jutsu, it was when he was giving control of his body to Naruto. It was a way to allow her some freedom to live. The kenjutsu kept her mind anchored to her body, so her mental image changed with her body, so it aged as well. If you notice, about that time is when he quit using the jutsu. After she was back in her body, she used a hench to walk around town until he got married and sent her here for protection. Tsunade asked, what happened to the 2 men Ibiki? Ibiki paled and asked, do you really want to know? Tsunade said yes. Ibiki looked around and said Naruto does not know what he did and he asked me never to tell, but it's the only time I questioned his sanity. He made both men swallow a seed. Shizen asked, that's it? Ibiki shook his head and said you don't understand. He made them suffer for a week straight with what he did. He used his bloodline to control the seed's growth and had it go into every part of their bodies, but not enough to kill them. He then had them break the skin at each joint of their bodies. It was deranged watching plants come out of a human body, causing a finger to fall off, before the next, then the hands and the arms. It was a slow and painful process. If they passed out he stopped, and with the plants coming out like they did, they could not bleed to death. After he finally killed them, he sent both bodies back to their countries. One to Cloud and one to Iwa with a note saying you missed Naruto, and I went easy on them. If you send any more, I will kill your entire army. Signed the White Ghost. Kakashi fell backwards as he heard the name getting everyone's attention. Jiraiya asked, what is it, Kakashi? Kakashi said the White Ghost was Naruto. I thought he was just a myth the ABNU created to scare people. Hayashi asked, what do you mean, Kakashi? Itachi said the White Ghost was Naruto codename. While in the village, he had a standard black ABNU uniform, but once he left the village he turned it inside out, so it was pure white. With his true skills he could kill you and be 100 yards away before the blood would spray out of your body. On the 220 missions we did together, he never had a single drop of blood touch his cloak. Ibiki said the 610 missions he did after that was also the same. Never a drop of blood on him, but his enemies would be covered in blood and cuts. His true speed and skills is amazing and terrifying at the same time. Tsunade said that's it. How the hell did he trick nearly the entire village full of ninja without them knowing it? If what you say is true, then he is practically a god of war or something. Ibiki sighed and said, I have all info on him that I have if you want to go over it, but I think a more private location is in order. Tsunade nodded and said, I want all of you to come also. I want us all to figure out how the hell he did it. Everyone followed behind her into a conference room and Shizune said, let's start with his early life and work from there. Itachi said I would probably be the closest to that then. I met Naruto when he was 5. He had already been training under the Sandaime and I was skeptical at first, but after he beat me in a fight I learned he was more than what he seemed. Kakashi said, but you were already an ABNU CPT at that point. Itachi nodded and said, you don't think I realized that? He did not just beat me though. He flat out humiliated me. Speed, weapon precisions, jutsu, hand sign speed, taijutsu, and jinjutsu he outclassed me in. I attacked with everything I had and he stated one form of combat and beat me for 20 minutes each form. I laid one hit on him in taijutsu and after that he broke both my arms and 4 ribs. Everyone was stunned at the revelation, most having seen Itachi's skill up front. Itachi said after that the Sandaime put him in my squad under me. The one thing I learned from Naruto and the Sandaime was that if you want to hide something put it out front. My squad was one of the most famous until the massacre yet. Can anyone tell me the name of the other 3 members of it? No. The reason is because everyone was looking at me because of the fame of a child being an ABNU. No one suspected him being there. We did a total of 220 successful mission. 45 B rank, 75 A rank and 100 S rank missions, without a fatality or a single person being hurt. Ibiki stepped forward and said it was after the incident with Naruto that I first met Naruto without his mask. Up to then, I had no idea. Every day I would see him or his clone in the streets screaming and being annoying, but like Itachi said, the best way to hide something was out in the open. If Naruto walks into a room before today, what would most of your initial reactions have been? Ignore the annoying pest, right? That was his mask he hid behind. Nothing he does is a waste. Every action he did is planned out, every move flawlessly executed. Take his match with Kiba during the prelims. Kiba said don't remind me, he farted in my face. Ibiki chuckled and said actually, no he did not. That was a knockout drag he made for kidnapping missions, but he could not pull it out during battle in the village or it would have raised questions. He used a subtle jinjutsu to make everyone think he farted while he released the drag into the air. In 10 minutes, no matter what you would have been asleep. He could have beaten you at any time, but he limited his skills to Kage Bunshins only, and even then he went easy on you. Think of how many he uses daily, and ask how only 5 at most would be a difference. Niji said, then what about my match? I had closed his chakra points and beat him until he drew on Kyuubi's chakra. Ibiki burst out laughing and said that's funny. He used Kyuubi's chakra as a discus's to cover his increase in speed. If he took off his gravity seals, you would have been toast the moment the match began. Guy asked, how much weight does he have on now? Sasuke said now, or in that match with Niji. Lee shouted both. Sasuke said in the match with Niji, he had 65 times normal gravity, now he has 100 times. Jia thought for a moment and said impossible, his body should have been crushed. Niji asked, what do you mean Guy, how much did he have when he fought me? Tsunade said Naruto body weight has been constant of 150 pounds since he was 10 according to medical records, so that means he had 9,750 pounds of weights on. Now he has 15,000. Hayashi asked, how good is he then? Inoichi said I think we will find out at the battles. Sakura thought for a moment and asked, who is the real Naruto? Naruto walked in and said, that's the question Sakura. Truth be told, he is just a tired warrior who wants to put away his swords. Choji asked, what do you mean? Tenten said, it's an old saying, it means that he wishes to leave the battlefield and live a normal life. If what everyone is saying is true, then that makes sense, because he never got to live one before. He was forced to endure beatings as a child. Trained to kill before most are taught to read, lived a double life that was neither his real self and also a village can hate him. I can't understand why he would do it. Everyone seemed to consider that and Naruto said it's all he had. As she left everyone to their thoughts. Chapter 3. The next day when the ship pulled into the docks, it was 7 a.m. and everyone was awake at that time and started down the ramp and were surprised by the prosperity of the harbor town they docked at. It looked like it was half the size of Konoha and everything looked well taken care of. Tsunade looked around and Itachi said if everyone would follow me to the train station. We can be at the castle within the hour. And lead the group through the village and soon to the train station. Nobody said anything, not knowing what to say. Naruto had taken both kids on up ahead the moment they got to shore. Shizen had left to talk to her but did not get a chance to because when she found her after the meeting she was asleep with the kids. Sakura asked, "Hey Sasuke, why did you not return to the village after the fights?" Sasuke said, "I had my family again, so I took my fiancé with me here to live. If I would have returned to Konoha, I would have been nothing more than breeding stock. I did not want that, so I chose this instead." Sakura looked down and said, "So I see you moved on." Sasuke said, "Move on, Sakura, we were teammates and somewhat of friends, but we were never more than that, no matter what you thought you wanted. You never really tried to know the real me. You saw my name, money, and fan club, so you blew a friendship away to try and impress me. I was not looking for someone who would change to be with me. I wanted someone who would be themselves." As he walked ahead of her and she sighed. Itachi shook his head and walked up beside Sakura and said, "You know that you really should try and look at it from his point of view." Sakura looked at Itachi and asked, "What point of view was that?" Itachi smirked and said, "Simple. What would you do if nobody wanted you for you? Instead, they wanted you for what they could get." As he walked away from her, Sakura stopped and said, "I was not like that." Ino laughed and said, "Yes you were. We both were." As she sat down next to Sakura, Hayashi looked at Hinata and asked, "So tell me. How much of this have you been hiding? I see you have not stuttered once since the truth came out and you seem calm." Hinata smiled and said, "If you're wondering if I am stronger than you think I am, then you're right. That was all an act so I could get out of the compound so I can spy for Naruto-sama." Hayashi said, "I see." As he looked away, Hanabi asked, "Then who is actually stronger, you or father?" Itachi, who heard this, said, "Hinata, no offense Hayashi, but Hinata is probably the only one beside Jiraiya or myself that can last against Naruto for any amount of time if he were to get serious, and that is only from experience mostly as well as skills." Hayashi nods, and Hanabi looked at her sister with some new respect. As the train moved, everyone could see how beautiful the country was, and Gaara tensed and looked around the cab and asked, "Did anyone else just feel that?" Everyone looked at him questionably, and Tsunade asked what. Gaara said, "I'm not sure. It felt like Naruto when he was drawing on Kyuubi chakra for a moment, but then it was gone." Tsunade frowned, and everyone glanced at each other. Finally, they arrived at the castle, which the train went to within a quarter of a mile of, and as they approached, they saw several people running around. Jiraiya jumped ahead of the group and grabbed a guard and asked, "What's wrong?" The guard said, "Lord Jiraiya, sorry for worrying your group. We were not expecting you for another hour. Naruto-sama asked us to do battle drills in case someone decided to make a run for the castle during the battle, sir. If your group would wait for about 15 minutes, we would be glad to escort you in, but please refrain from getting involved in the drill." Oh crap, here comes the third wave. Jiraiya turned and saw a combination of Iwa and Kumonins with a red sash on their arms all running toward the bridge that connected with the castle. Jiraiya screamed everyone out of the way and let them pass, "It's battle drills." As he jumped to the side as several Iwanins jumped over the group from Konoha. All the Konoha people moved to the side and watched as men came out of the woods throwing grappling hooks as well as doing jutsu to make earth bridges to allow them to cross. As the battle heated up, they saw several of the defending troops get hit by pressure points, and a lot of the attacking groups went up in smoke, and everyone was looking at the attack patterns and plans and surprised by how thought out they were. Finally an alarm went off and all the Kumo and Iwanins went up in smoke and a swirl of leaves appeared on the bridge and Naruto appeared and said, "Captains, front and center." 10 men came running up and said, "Yes sir." Naruto walked in front of them and said, "All right, I am proud of the initial defenders successfully stalling the first wave while alerting the castle to the attack as well as beginning preparation to move the VIPs. Captains 1 through 3, good job." 3 men said, "Thank you sir." Naruto turned and said, "Now on to the second wave." For the most part one was pleased with it. I was however saddened when I saw the East Wing was breached and 1/3 of the troops in that area were taken out of the battle either with injuries/dead. This is not acceptable. Captain 5. I want you and Captain 6 on dividing your long-range fighters and close-range fighters, with more going to the East Wing. I know that the West Wing was protected perfectly, Captain 6, but you also have to understand only Jounins would be able to get across at that area of the ravine using several Earth Jutsu, which gives your long-range attackers more time to take them out. The East Wing with a simple Earth Jutsu could be breached by any genin who has had chakra leaping training. We need to make that side more defensible. Captain 4, use squad's ability to get information from squad 1 through 3, replacing their injured men, getting the wounded to a defendable spot to receive medical attention as well as protecting the medics while having squads 1 through 3 fortify the front entrance was excellent. However, you also had one problem. The medics' supplies were in the wrong area and your men that were having to run and get them was costing time, which results in the loss of lives. Overall, I want you to tell your men that they have improved greatly from the last time I was here, and I am proud to have them protecting my family. Naruto stopped and looked at the last 3 captains and said, "All right, Captain 7, please tell me exactly what your squad's primary objective is." The captain said, "To secure the emergency exit for our troops and the royal family." Naruto nods and said, "And where were half of your troops during this battle?" The captain said, "At their job, sir." Naruto nods and asked, "And where were you?" The captain looked confused and said, "What do you mean, sir?" Naruto looked at him with a glare and said, "What I mean is, when your men were doing their duty, where were you?" As he unleashed some ki. The captain was sweating and gasping for breath, and the captain of Squad 8 said, "Sir, it was my Naruto hit him with a silencing jutsu and said, 'Silence, Captain. I know you're wanting to protect your brother for taking the blame for his mistake, but don't. He needs to hear this himself and his men have a right to know what their leader was doing during this drill.'" The captain of Squad 7 said, "I was Naruto's side," and said, "You were with your wife in the broom closet having sex while you should have been at your post ensuring the escape route with your men. I know you are an honorable man, but think about this. If you did that during a real battle and your men had been killed and you decided to protect your wife by having her escape where everyone believes is the escape route, but they were all dead, what would happen to your wife most likely?" The man looked down and said, "I'm sorry, sir. I thought that since this was all a drill it would be alright." Naruto sighed and said, "Yes, I understand that, but you put your men, the men of the other squads, and your own family at risk by doing that. Your actions, if this was real, could have been the death of everyone here. We each have our own part to do and each has to support each other. If we don't, then all is lost. Now I could give you a punishment for this, but instead I am going to do this. Squad 7. You have heard what your captain has done. If you see no wrong by his action, then he is free of any punishments. If you feel his is wrong and should be punished, you all decide his punishment. Until you are willing to follow his orders again and have him as your captain, I want the vice captain to step in for him as leader of your squad and your captain shall become the vice captain until he has earned your trust." The captain of Squad 7 bowed his head and stepped back to where his men were and another man stepped forward. Naruto looked at him and said, "Now Squad 7, you all did perfect. Even when the enemy discovered the escape route, you were not only able to protect it but also eliminate the threat as well as notify squad of your progress. Good job. Squad 8, you were able to secure the queen and her family as well as all the important documents as well as providing backup for Squad 7 when they needed it. I am proud of your squad. Squad 9, your squad performed your duties perfectly by securing all the civilians and escorting them into secure areas as well as setting traps for any enemies. For this, I thank you. Now you all have heard what you did good and not on. I want each captain to talk with their squads and try to find ways to improve even more. Again, I thank you for everything along with my family. Dismissed. Everyone saluted Naruto and walked back to the castle, and Naruto turned to see everyone from Konoha gaping, and Naruto said, "Sorry about that. The ship made better time than I thought it would, so you arrived early. Please follow me inside." Tsunade said, "Wait, Naruto, what exactly was that?" Naruto sighed and said, "During the fall of the castle during the reign of Yukie's father, the castle fell in exactly 22 minutes. In that time only 5 people escaped. Hatake Kakashi, my wife, 2 guards, and the advisor who became Yukie's personal bodyguard over the years before he died when we freed the country. Only reason those 5 even made it was because of Kakashi and his summons. After she took over, she wanted to make sure more of her people could escape should the castle ever fall again, so I helped her create the 9 squads to protect the castle. Each squad had a duty it has to complete. Every time I came here, I would use Kage Bunshin to test them, and the defense time went from 11 minutes when we first started to 3 hours. In 3 hours' time, a messenger hawks that are launched by all 3 of the first squads can reach the actual hidden village here that is an hour away and have them send aid. That means that before the castle fell, the enemy would have a counter-attack hitting them and would force the enemy to either retreat or deal with the larger threat, which would allow the evacuation of the castle of all civilians and wounded. Tsunade nods and Shikamaru said, that's actually a pretty good plan as long as no one delays the ninja from the village somehow. Naruto waved his hand and said not possible. As he suddenly jumped high into the air and everyone looked at him and gasped as they saw him walking in the sky, and Naruto took out a kunai and dropped it, and every gasped when they heard the sound of the kunai hitting something solid, and Naruto grabbed it and jumped down and said, there are 10 of those clear ice bridges from here to the village, all taller than Kyuubi. The neens from the village can run across it and attack them from above and don't have to worry about crossing the actual ground that would slow enemies down, and since the ice is clear, unless you actually know where they are and have the seal on you to allow you to touch it, you could try to land on it all day, and if you did it would kill you without the protection seal. Neat little trick Itachi Zabuza picked up in the mist, and using the basic of Haku bloodline on a seal back in the village makes it a perfect aid for quick travel. Now let's go inside, I want to see if my children are awake yet. As he started to lead the way, Shizen said, yes, I can't wait to meet all 13 of my grandchildren. Naruto stopped and looked back and asked 13, what are you talking about? Sasuke snickered, as did Itachi, and Naruto glared at both, who shut up quickly, and Tsunade said, your sister told us you had the 2 who were on the ship, 9 more, and the 2 who were being born last night. Naruto slapped his head and said, damn you guys. Listen everyone, you had a joke pulled on you by my little sister. I only have 6 children. 3 boys and 3 girls. She told you I had 9 of them, right? Did she happen to say the names were those of all of Team 7 members? Sakura said yes, why? Naruto shook his head and said Kyuubi has some of the summons training Arctic foxes here to be mean animals, and the 9 foxes that are joked to be my children because of how much time they spend around me when I am here are all named after Team 7. Remind me to kick my sister's ass later. As he started walking into the castle. When they made it inside, Naruto led them to the throne room, and as they entered they saw the 2 children from the boat plus another boy and girl that was sitting by a red-headed woman that Sasuke immediately went over to, and as they looked ahead they saw Yukie sitting on a throne with 2 newborns wrapped in her arms asleep. Naruto walked over and took one and sat down beside her and motioned for everyone to come closer. As they did, Naruto said, allow me to introduce you all to my real children. You already know Yuna and Erashur, who are over there playing with their pet foxes. Over there, with Sasuke and Karen, are Minato and Haku. The little girl there in Yukie's arms is I am, and this little guy right here is Inari. Shizen stepped forward and said, hello, I'm Shizune, and I guess you could say I'm your mother-in-law. Yukie looked at her and said, it's a pleasure to meet you, Shizune. Would you like to hold your granddaughter? Shizen said, if it's alright with you, I would, since I never got to hold either of my children growing up. As she looked saddened, Yukie handed them, and Naruto looked up and saw Tsunade looking at the babies, and Naruto said, hey grandma, you want to hold your great-grandson? Tsunade went wide-eyed and said, no, I mean I don't want to intrude. Naruto waved his hand and said, nonsense, come hold him and take care of him. Tsunade walked forward and Naruto carefully handed the baby to her, and Tsunade looked at him and smiled a small smile, and the baby yawned, and Tsunade's heart melted for all about 2 seconds, when she realized the warm feeling she felt on her chest was not her heart, but rather piss. She glared at the baby and said, you're going to be trouble, just like your father, aren't you? The baby gave a cute little smile, and Tsunade thought, heaven help us all. After that, Naruto showed everyone where they would be staying and allowed them to settle in and learn when the meals would be, and allowed them to travel around the castle. Naruto then put all the children to nap, and Tsunade, Jiraiya, and Shizune all watched them as Naruto and Yukie went to lay down to rest. Naruko showed up a little later, and after getting an earful from her mother and grandparents for the meme trick as well as hearing about it from Sakura when she ran into her, she finally got to get to know her family. The peace would only last for a short time, though, as the time for the tournament started to draw near. Chapter 4. It has been 3 days since the Konoha group has arrived in Spring Country. To say they were shocked by what they seen would be an understatement. For the first time they all saw Naruto as who he really was, a powerful leader who cared for his people. Each of them felt shame at failing to see the truth and their treatments of his young life. Today the group was on their way to the elemental village. As they walked, Ino said, "Naruto, I have to know something, how strong are you really?" Naruto looked back at her as he held the hand of Yuna and held little Haku in his arms and said, "Ino, I am strong enough to protect what is precious to me. That's all you need to know. If you want to know how many jutsu I know, I would say around 2,000. If you want to know how much chakra I have enough chakra to fight all 3 Sanins and my father in their prime at the same time. If you want to know how smart I am, I could beat Shikamaru and Shogi at least half the time. Not bad for a dead last, huh?" As he turned and looked at the little girl who was smiling up at him walking beside him. Itachi appeared in a swirl of leaves in front of Naruto and said, "Naruto-sama, the team from Iwa has arrived on the island." Naruto frowned and said, "I see, where are they?" Itachi said, "I have had the ambassador of their country who arrived earlier to get the details of where and when to stay and fight. He is currently leading them to their preparation area near the exam field." Naruto nods and said, "Okay, are the detection seals activated yet?" Itachi said, "Yes, Naruto-sama." Naruto said, "Good, if the seals go off, I want the all militia to increase security to their villages and have the Black Ops to intercept them and order them back to their area to wait or forfeit their battle. If they attack, spring the security seals and then deliver their bodies to the Earth Lord as well as the other lords, showing how they tried to sabotage the battle. Tell the others to inform everyone the same thing and notify the Hyugas when Cloud arrive, but when Danzo arrives to notify me personally." Itachi said, "Yes, sir." As he left is a swirl of leaves. Tsunade asked, "What was that all about?" Naruto said, "Simple, the area where everyone is staying for the battle is set up with seals buried underground. If they are activated, a prison shield similar to the one Orochimaru used against the Sandaime will come up in that area and slowly close in until everyone inside is dead." Everyone gasped and Shizune asked, "Is our area the same?" Naruto said, "Yes. I had no choice in the matter of that because it's the only way I could get the feudal lords to agree to the precautions I wanted was if everyone was treated equal. Now let's continue our trip. We should reach the village in about 15 minutes. As they continued to walk. As they approached the village, they noticed that it was protected by 5 walls, which shocked everyone. A wall of ice was the outer wall, 20 feet away was a wall of earth, 20 feet away from that, still heading toward the actual village, was a wall of wood. 20 feet after that was a wall of metal, and finally after that was another wall that was a combination of all the other walls put together. Naruto saw everyone's expressions and said, "Oh, the joys of seals. The funny thing about all those walls is the seals on them are all solar powered and recharge every day, and the walls are self-repairing." Jiraiya said, "Who came up with these seals, Naruto? I know they were above your skills." Naruto said, "Actually, it was about 10 of us who actually came up with these. I was one of them, Zabuza was one. The Sandaime had part of this he had planned for Konoha walls as well, but the council refused to let him when he approached them after getting the general seal for it from my father notes. I must say, counting them, that made 4 of us. Itachi has some knowledge with skill making 5. The other 5 were people who came here and I refused to speak about for their privacy." Jiraiya nods and said, "Well, I am impressed by what I see. 5 walls protecting the village. Each wall has to be breached differently and the last wall would be nearly impossible for a small group to breach, meaning if you picked the enemy off before they got there or weakened them, then your last wall would stop them." Naruto said, "Correct. Well, everyone, welcome to the elemental village. Everyone here knows everyone else, so they will know you're not of the village when they see you. You can walk around and enjoy yourselves, but if someone asks you to stay away from something or not to go near something, please heed their warning because odds are there are traps there to kill anyone who is not supposed to be here. Thank you." As he took his 2 children and started to walk toward a set of houses to the east. Tsunade asked, "Where are you going, Naruto?" Naruto said, "See those houses up ahead? It's actually an indoor park where all the children go to play with each other. I was just taking Yuna here to see her friends and relax with my other child. You don't need a tour guide here since the whole village would be willing to help you and watch you. As he turned and continued to walk away. After he was gone, Tsunade said, "You heard him, but I want everyone to meet back at that indoor park in 4 hours so we can discuss what we see." As she saw a hot spring and headed for it. Surprisingly, Jiraiya did not go to the hot spring, instead he went to look at the walls again. As everyone split up, Kakashi, who had remained pretty much quiet since hearing what title Naruto had when he was in Umbu, decided to go talk to Naruto. When he found Naruto, he was sitting on a blanket under a tree with his little baby asleep, and he saw his daughter playing with some other children. Kakashi walked up to Naruto and asked, "Can I sit down?" Naruto shrugged and said, "As long as you don't wake the little one, I don't mind." Kakashi nods and asked, "Are you really the white ghost?" Naruto said, "And if I am?" Kakashi said, "Look, Naruto, I won." Naruto held his hand up and said, "Do you know why I was put on your team in the first place, Kakashi?" Kakashi said no. Naruto said, "Because for a man who quotes look underneath the underneath, you fail more times than most when it comes to personal relations. Did you know we did an Umbu mission together and you never knew it?" Kakashi blinked and asked, "Really, when?" Naruto said, "Remember about 8 years back, when Iwa put an outpost on the border of Fire Country and Iwa hiding it as a village?" Kakashi said, "Ventika, right?" Naruto nods and said, "Yes, remember the 2 extra men who were assigned to your team who supposedly died on that mission?" Kakashi nods and Naruto said, "We didn't die. Abra Uchiha and I were the 2 who were assigned. We used your mission as a cover to get into the village, and while your squad went and attacked the village drawing attention to you, I assassinated the ambassador from Kumo who was there at the time to discuss a war pact. I then had Abra go and infiltrate Kumo, disguised as the ambassador, and he was the one who stole Kumo's forbidden scroll." Kakashi said, "So why fake your deaths?" Naruto said, "No paper trail. Dead men tell no tale. When you returned and told the Sandaime we were presumed dead, he marked us off as Black Ops, and so nobody knew of us. As you know, Black Ops don't get put on the memorial stone for 3 years, and by that time you had forgotten about it. The perfect way to get by under the watchful eyes of the village." Kakashi frowned and said, "So my team was expendable on that mission?" Naruto said, "No, your job was to attack the village and make it look like Kumo was responsible with your Chidori attack, making it look like it was them. That stopped them from agreeing to another meeting for at least 2 years." Kakashi sighed and said, "I am not used to seeing this side of you, Naruto." Naruto waved his hand and said, "Don't worry about it. After all, when this battle is over you won't be seeing me any longer since I am staying here with my family." Kakashi said, "You know the council won't like that." Naruto said, "You know the council can kiss my blonde ass, right?" As he looked at Kakashi with a deadpan look. Kakashi really tried to keep it in, but he had to laugh at that one. Only Naruto had the balls to say that. Just then the baby woke up crying to the sound of Kakashi laughing, and Naruto glared at Kakashi and said, "I told you not to wake the baby up," as his fist hit Kakashi, sending him flying across the field and into a tree, passed out. Naruto picked up the baby and said, "There, little one, the big bad pervert's gone now." As he rocked the baby. When Tsunade and the others arrived, they saw Kakashi twitching bound to a tree by vines, and had makeup all over his face as well as bows in his hair. For most the thought of finally seeing Kakashi's face would have been good, but the condition he was in now was too much to take. Everyone burst out laughing. Yuna, who was laying beside her little brother, sister and her dad on the blanket, looked up when the baby started to cry again and asked, "Does that mean I can play makeover with them also, Daddy?" As she gave the even more potent little vixen "I know jutsu" to Naruto. Naruto broke in seconds, and said, "Go ahead." Yuna smiled and slammed her hands into the ground, and shouts were heard as vines caught all the Konoha visitors by surprise, and she walked over with a scroll and bit her thumb and ran it across the scroll, and out popped out tons of makeup and bows, and said, "Who has the first appointment?" Everyone paled at the evil smile she had on her face. Chapter 5. Another week flew by in the elemental village. Naruto had as promised allowed the Konoha group to travel around the village, and they all found things they came to like about the village. Naruto had been spending time with his wife and children, as well as talking over with a few other people about things that concerned the upcoming battle. Dustin had completed the legendary Raijin as well as Kakashi Chakra Fong, Tsunade had gave the Raijin to Naruto and Kakashi kept his father's sword. Sakura's father's sword had been completed as well and now she had it and was often seen sparring with either Zabuza, Itachi, or Kakashi. Speaking of Itachi, Sakura and him have been spending a lot of time together lately. Sakura finally talked to Sasuke and his fiancée Karen and Sakura gave them her blessings after doing a lot of soul searching. When she gave them her blessing and she left, Itachi came to her for comfort and have been pretty much inseparable. Flashback. Sakura said, "And I want you to know, Sasuke, that I am sorry for taking so long to grow up and I am glad to see that you have found someone who makes you happy. I hope we can still be friends after all of this." Sasuke said, "I would like that, Sakura." Sakura smiled and left the house where Sasuke lived, and as she was walking away a voice said it seemed to be a good time for closure, huh? Sakura looked up and saw Itachi and said yes. Itachi said, "So what do you plan to do now?" As he walked beside her. Sakura said, "I don't know. I chased after Sasuke so long I feel lost." Itachi said, "Perhaps you just need a guide until you find your way." As he looked up at the sky. Sakura looked at him and asked, "That's corny, how could someone guide me when even I don't know my?" Sakura was silenced by a kiss on the lips from Itachi, and as he pulled away he said, "Perhaps you're going my way." Sakura looked at him frozen in place, and Itachi saw she was shocked and put his arm around hers and said, "Let's go eat. I'm hungry." As he started dragging her away. And flashback. Kakashi and Rin have both been spending time together and Rin explained how she ran into Naruto while he was on his training trip with Jiraiya. Tsunade and Jiraiya had been spending time with their great-grandchildren and Shizune has been spending time with them as well and with her daughter and son. Hayashi, Neji, Hinata, and Hanabi all had a sparring match and to the shock of the other three Hinata handed them all their asses. Flashback. Hayashi, Neji, and Hanabi all three were on the ground panting with Hinata standing in the middle of the three and said, "Still think I am weak, Neji?" Neji gulped and shook his head no, and Hayashi asked, "What was that attack?" Hinata said, "Oh, just something I came up with while dancing on the water." With a smirk on her face. And flashback. Both generations of the Ino/Shika/Cho groups have been talking and training. As for the others, they mostly looked around and enjoyed their time in the village. Now we find everyone on the eve of battle. Naruto sighed as he stood in front of the group now, and he said, "All right, everyone, I have put this off long enough. I have received word that Danzo and his men are here on the island now. He has 25 men as well as another 25 as his own personal escort. Rain and Kumo have both arrived as well, so it looks like it's only going to be only the 4 teams instead of the others. Apparently, the other superpower has decided not to get involved. I asked you all before to think about it and now I need an answer because the battle begins tomorrow. Who among you will be willing to fight on my side? I have Itachi, Sasuke, Zabuza, Haku, and myself. I can have up to 20 more." Tsunade stepped forward and said, "I'm in." Jiraiya said, "So am I." Sakura said, "It's not going to be much of a team 7 if I don't fight also." Naruto said, "I am fighting." Naruto said, "No, you're not, Naruto. You may be able to fight, but I need you to protect Yukie and the kids for me. I don't trust Danzo." Kakashi said, "Team 7 united again, so I am in." Naruto said, "Well, that's 9. Gaara said, "My sibling and I are in." Naruto said, "Thank you, Gaara, that brings us up to 12. Hinata said, "I'm with you, Hokage-sama." Hayashi said, "Hinata, I would like to join myself, but I think I will instead stay in the spectator seats and keep an eye on Danzo for you, Naruto." Naruto said, "I thank you for that, Hayashi." Guy said, "My flames of youth burn brightly, and I will follow your orders." Lee said, "Guy-sensei." "I will as well." Guy said, "Lee." Lee said, "Guy-sensei." 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 Guy said, "Lee." Lee said Gai sensei. Gai said Lee. Lee said Gai sensei. Gai said Lee. Lee said Gai sensei. Gai said Lee. Naruto slammed both of their heads together and said finally. As everyone looked at him and Naruto said, so how many does that bring us up to? Niji said counting me makes 16. Naruto nods and said, so anyone else? 10 said if my teammates are in it so am I. Naruto nods and Enko said Imingaki. Ibiki said I would like to, but I am not in as good of shape as I once was sitting behind the desk and the torture cells. I will also help Hayashi keep an eye out for anything suspicious. Naruto said, well, that's 18. Sum said the 3 mutts are with you Naruto-sama. Naruto said, so that makes 21 correct. Shikaku said the original Ino-Shika Cho team would assist you and our children will aid should Danzo try anything during the battle. Naruto said, very well, anyone else? Shibi said I will be your last member Naruto-sama. My son will aid the other heirs along with Ibiki and Hayashi in keeping an eye on Danzo and his men. He can mark them each, with a female in case Danzo tries to break the rules. Naruto nods and said, I thank you all and I want you all to know I am grateful for all the help and I hope we all come out of this battle alive. In order to do this, though we need a plan because we have 75 other people who will try to kill us so any ideas? Shikamaru got into his thinking pose drawing everyone's attention and he said well and so began the planning for the next day of battle. The next day the sun had just rose and we find 99 people all standing on the ground prepared for combat facing a wall where on top of the wall was a spectator's box that was full with several feudal lords, Princess Yukie along with Naruto and 10 guards around her. On the right side of the stands was Danzo along with several men dressed in chunin and jounin outfits. The Fire Lord stood up and before he could say anything a yellow flash appeared on the ground in front of the 99 people and a man with a solid white cloak and a white umbu mask with no eye holes appeared in front of everyone. The person bowed and said forgive my lateness lord. It appears that another party wishes to intervene in these matches. The Fire Lord looked at the umbu and asked, who are you and who is this other party? The umbu took off his mask and said I am Naruto Namikaze, codename White Ghost and retiring Rokudaime Hokage of Konoha sir. As for the other party that has requested to enter the battle sir, it would appear to be a group consisting of missing means being led by the who appears to be Orochimaru. At the name of the leader several people flinched and the Fire Lord said, but Orochimaru is dead. Laughter could be heard drawing everyone's attention and Naruto slipped his mask back on and pulled his cloak back over his head as he walked over to the Konoha group. Everyone looked where the laughter was heard and to everyone's shock there stood Orochimaru who said it's so nice to see you again Naruto-kun. I have finally taken over my former subordinate Kabuto body and now live again. I heard about this little tournament you had here and decided to bring my own into this battle as well. Of course, you have to recognize me as group of potential investors feudal lords, because should you not then my men would be glad to start a new village in your countries like I did in Rice Country. In fact, that's what I plan to do with Konoha after I win this battle. Think of all those test subjects. Kukukukuk. Sasuke clenched his fist as Naruto walked beside him and said, I should have killed the bastard when I had the chance. Naruto said take it easy. The bastard just gave me a chance to scare the shit out of everyone with the Hiraishin and my codename. I got the entire island on high alert right now, so watch yourself. Sasuke nods and the Fire Lord after talking with the other leaders said, very well Orochimaru, I don't know how you're alive again, but you are allowed to enter as well. Please take your spot while I explain the rules. Orochimaru walked over with his men who were all dressed in the cloths of the Sound Village shinobi, and you could not see anything different about any of them. As he stood there, he said, my Tsunade, Jiraiya, I must say that age has not been kindly to either of you. I wonder, are the rumors I heard about you both being the parents of the Yondaime was true and that your great-grandchildren have the Mokuton abilities? If so, maybe they can be my test subjects as well. At this, several people wanted to kill the snake bastard and Tsunade, who was being restrained by Jiraiya, said I will kill you before you ever get near my family bastard. Orochimaru chuckled and said we shall see Tsunade. The Fire Lord said enough talking everyone. Now the rules are simple. Each team has 25 people. It is 8 a.m. You have until noon to prepare. At noon the ceasefire that has been in effect since you arrived will end and you will fight until your team is killed, your team surrenders or is captured and you are put in one of the holding cells surrounding the battlefield. If you are captured, you cannot escape until the end of the battle. If you surrender and put yourself in the holding cells, you cannot change your mind and return later. Once inside the holding cells, you also will not be harmed by anyone else either. This battle will continue until either one team is all that is left. As long as one person remains on a team, then the team still continues. You may use anything and everything at your disposal, but you will not be allowed to leave the battlegrounds that is encircled by these walls. There are cameras all over the battlefield allowing us to see what is going on. That is all. You may go. Just like that, everyone was gone in a blur. Danzo said, My, that was quite a surprise. Hayashi, who was near him with Ibiki, said, Yes, it was. Ibiki asked, So how does it feel to know you are responsible for our situation, Danzo? Danzo said, I like it. I am finally going to get everything I wanted. Everything. As he glanced over at Princess Yukie. Ibiki glanced at Hayashi, who activated his bloodline following as many people as he could before shutting it off when they got too far apart. As Orochimaru headed toward the area his spies informed him about, he thought back to what happened several days before. Flashback: Orochimaru was now standing in front of a group of dead root members, and he said, So tell me, Danzo, why have you showed up at this time? Danzo stepped out of the shadows and said, I have a proposition for you that I believe we both would find beneficial. Orochimaru asked, And what is that? As he held out the grass-cutter sword. Danzo said, How would you like revenge on the Kyuubi brat, Konoha, and your former teammates? Orochimaru said, Interesting, and how would you arrange this? Danzo pulled out a scroll and tossed it to Orochimaru, who caught it, and he opened it and began to read. As he read, his eyes sparked with anger and said, I see, I will agree then. Danzo said, Good. Orochimaru said, Oh yeah, I forgot. As he disappeared and reappeared in front of Danzo, stabbing Grasscutter into him, and said, You shall be the first to die in my revenge. Of course you will still serve a purpose to me. As he killed off several root members and wounded others. Orochimaru then began hand signs and slammed his hands into the ground as a coffin rose up from the ground and the cover came off of the coffin and Danzo stepped out. Orochimaru said, Yes, you shall serve me well since I already knew all of this and more. Cuckoo. As he planted a kunai in the back of the head of Danzo. Danzo kneeled and asked, What are your orders, Orochimaru-sama? Orochimaru smirked and flashback: Orochimaru thought, Soon I shall have everything I want, including the perfect body and my revenge. Cuckoo. Chapter 6. Naruto and the rest of his team arrived at the location they decided to act as their staging area, and he looked around and asked anyone. Itachi, Sasuke, Neji, and Hinata activated their bloodlines and said, No, we're clear. Naruto nods and said, Who the hell was that back there? Drawing everyone's attention. Sakura asked, What do you mean, Naruto? That was Orochimaru. Naruto said, No, it wasn't. His smell was wrong to be either Orochimaru or Kabuto. It's like he's wearing Orochimaru face like Orochimaru did that rain back in the Chunin exams, Sakura. Sasuke said, I agree, the chakra level was too low for Orochimaru. Whoever that was not Orochimaru. Tsunade asked, So what are you saying? Naruto said, I'm saying that the fact that someone is impersonating Orochimaru means the real one is somewhere close by, or that we have someone else pulling the strings. Shibi said, I have placed bugs on their team and there is something off about them. My bugs don't like their chakra. Naruto frowned and Jiraiya said, So what should we do about it? Naruto said, We continue as planned. I want everyone to avoid Orochimaru army for now. We deal with the teams as planned and then reform to work on Orochimaru. Tsunade, you take your team to deal with the Kumo. Jiraiya, you take your team to deal with Iwa. I will take my team to deal with Danzo men. Remember, no one plays hero. I don't want to add anyone else to the memorial stone before I retire. That is an order. Everyone smirked and said, Yes, sir. Naruto smiled and said, Good, so how long we have now? Itachi said 25 minutes. Naruto nods and pulled out a scroll and unsealed it, and a roll of tri-pronged kunais came out, and Naruto said, Alright everyone, take one kunai, and if you run into something you can't handle, throw it. Then just hold on. I will be there to help as soon as possible. Everyone looked at him and took one. Neji stepped forward and said, Naruto, I must ask something. When we fought in the exams, and you said you would change the Hyuga clan. What did you mean? Naruto smiled and said, Hinata, would you mind? Hinata said, not at all, Naruto. He meant this. As she turned around and raised her hair off her neck. Everyone gasped and Neji asked, what is that? Hinata let her hair go and said, it's a new seal that I want to put on the entire clan. It protects the bloodline without subjecting half of them. It was a compromise I asked Naruto to put into effect should he ever have to reveal his true position. It was the cost for me being his spy. Naruto said my father originally designed it and I tweaked it later. Only downside is you can't transplant an eye like Kakashi. As he frowned. Neji said, I see. Thank you, Naruto-sama. Naruto said, don't Neji. I am just Naruto. I hate formalities, especially to those I consider friends. Neji nods and Naruto sighed and said, alright everyone, divide in your teams, watch your backs, and let's kick some ass. Just then an explosion was heard in the distance and Naruto said, that's the cue. Naruto, Itachi, Hinata, Sasuke, Jiraiya, and Tsunade all began making hand signs and said together Kuchiyos no Jutsu. As the entire area was covered in smoke. When the smoke cleared there stood Kyuubi, Gamabunta, Katsuya, Mamba the new snake boss, and Lancelot the falcon boss, and Atlas the raven boss. Each of the bosses looked at each other and Naruto said, alright Shibi, which way are our targets? Shibi said the Kumo team is to the north. Danzo team is to the west. Iwa are to the south of us and the rain means are that strange. Naruto asked what? Shibi said Danzo, Orochimaru, and the rain means are all now in the west, but they seem to be waiting. Naruto frowned and said Jiraiya and Tsunade, proceed as planned. Kyuubi, head west. Itachi, Hinata, have you summons, take flight and look for easy prey. Itachi said you heard him Atlas, proceed. Hinata said go Lancelot. Jiraiya said let's go Gambunta, it's time to rock and roll. Gamabunta took out his pipe and blew smoke at Kyuubi and said I still don't like you. As he jumped away. Following behind Jiraiya and Gamabunta was Anko, the Ino, Shika, Cho group along with Neji, Kakashi, and Hana. Tsunade said Katsuya, follow Mamba. Sasuke said Mamba, I want you to dig a tunnel to the north big enough to allow Katsuya to follow. When you surface anyone with a Kumo headband is lunch. Mamba rattled its tail and dove into the ground and Katsuya followed. Tsunade jumped in the hole followed by Sakura, Hinata, Sasuke, Kiba, Temari, Kankuro, Gaara, and Shibi. Naruto sighed and said, alright everyone, let's follow Kyuubi. Behind Naruto was Tenten, Lee, Guy, Zabuza, Haku, Tsume and Itachi. Meanwhile in the spectators' box Danzo looked around and said, tell me Hayashi, why are you really here? I mean, surely you could be of more use on the battlefield instead of up here. Ibiki I can understand, but you are not here for any reason I can see. Hayashi said I am here because I do not believe this should be taking place here and now. Danzo said nothing as he looked at the monitors on the ceiling watching the scene and thought it's almost time. As Jiraiya was holding on to Gambunta, he soon saw the Iwa Anines, but something was wrong. It was not until Gamabunta jumped into the air again did Jiraiya realize exactly was wrong. He said, oh shit. Meanwhile, with Tsunade Mamba had just burst through the ground where it detected the Kumonines and Katsuya came out just moments later. Tsunade saw the Kumonines were all gathered together as Mamba charged at them to get his meal when she saw something that scared her. She said, not good. On the other side of the field Kyuubi held into the air as he smelled the scent of the group on ninja he was coming toward and thought yes, finally a chance to feed again. Naruto who was trailing behind him saw Kyuubi stop for some reason and Naruto ran up Kyuubi's leg and jumped on his head and looked and thought oh god no. In 3 different places around the arena smoke was suddenly burst from the area. As the smoke cleared where Jiraiya was stood nearly 1,000 Iwa Anines. With Tsunade, there stood close to 400 Kumonines, all glaring at her. With Naruto as the smoke cleared Naruto paled because their standing on the remains of a summoning circle was nearly 400 sound Nines, around 400 rain Nines, and 200 root members and Orochimaru standing there and he said, you lose Kyuubi brat. As he reached up to his face and pulled it away, and Naruto went wide-eyed as there stood Danzo. Naruto at that moment felt his twin sister chakra flare and thought, no, my family. Chapter 7. Naruto felt cold as he saw Danzo standing there, and finally he understood what happened. Naruto saw the enemy ninja charging at him and closed his eyes and thought, God, please, whatever happens here today, please protect my family and friends. As a tear fell from his eye as he opened them and said, Kyuubi, lunch. Naruto then put his hands together and said, Taju ka ge bunshin no jutsu. As 1000 ka ge bunshin appeared. Each one pulled out a copy of the Raijin and charged at the oncoming Nins. Naruto turned and ran back toward the people who were following him, and as he approached he screamed, fall back, it's a trap. As he passed by the group, everyone stopped and turned and started to follow him, and Itachi asked, what happened? Naruto looked over his shoulder and said, it's a trap, Danzo is here and Orochimaru is back in the stands. The reason so many ninja were gathered together was to make a summoning circle. They summoned around 1000 sound, rain, and root ninjas. We must regroup. Itachi, get your summon and find Tsunade and have them fall back to our startup location. Naruto then bit his thumb and ran through hand signs and slammed them on the ground. Summoning Gamakichi appeared and Naruto said, Gamatachi, no time to explain. I need you to get the pervert and tell him to fall back. It's a trap. Meet back where we started. Orochimaru, Danzo, and Rain have teamed together. The toad looked at Naruto and disappeared in a puff of smoke. Itachi jumped on the back of the raven he summoned and flew into the air heading toward where he saw Katsuya, and even with his Sharingan at the distance he could instantly tell what was going on there. Making a decision, Itachi said, Atlas, head for the elemental village now. The raven turned direction and started flying toward where the elemental village was. Naruto, who was running with the rest of the group, saw Atlas turn and fly the other direction and frowned even more, and Sum said, Naruto, I can smell them closing in on us. Naruto said, I know. My Kage Bunshin have already been destroyed and Kyuubi is nearly out of chakra. Zabuza asked, what should we do, Gaki? Naruto looked at him and said, it's time for zero visibility, Zabuza. Do it. Zabuza grinned and said, come on Haku, let's go. As he changed directions and headed away from the group. Sum asked, what's he doing, Naruto? Naruto said, I have home field advantage here. We have to hurry. As he changed directions away from where Zabuza was. Back with Jiraiya, he was standing on top of Gambunta, having just ignited the Toad Oil combo, when Gamatachi appeared. Gamatachi said, hey, bro said to tell you to fall back. It's a trap. Orochimaru, Danzo, and Rain have teamed together. Jiraiya said, it's worse than that. It appears Iwa has also joined in. As he grabbed the little toad and jumped off the head of Gambunta right before he went up in smoke. Jiraiya saw his team closing in and he ran toward them, and as he passed them, he yelled, retreat. Everyone was shocked when Jiraiya said that and looked where he came from, seeing boulders sailing in the air heading toward them, and they all turned and retreated. Tsunade, seeing the Kumonins appear, said, Katsuya, when I get in the tunnel, destroy it and try to take some of them out if you can. As she jumped of the slug boss's head just as Sakura emerged from the tunnel. Tsunade jumped in the tunnel and yelled, fall back, now. Sakura went wide-eyed seeing the Nins and followed Tsunade back in the tunnel right before it was crushed by Katsuya, who had began spitting acid at the Kumonins as Mamba tried to eat as many as he could. Back in the waiting box, an explosion of smoke startled everyone, and as the Konoha Nins and the guards of the queen got ready to fight, the smoke cleared, and there where the 25 root ninja were now stood 25 sound Nins, and Orochimaru was standing where Danzo was before. Orochimaru chuckled and said, now, bring me the queen alive and kill the rest. His men charged. Naruto got into a fighting stance and grabbed a scroll and bit her thumb while flashing through hand signs and wiping blood across the scroll, and slammed them into the ground and said, Kuchios no Jutsu, Fox Pack. And was covered with smoke. When the smoke cleared, there were 30 6-foot-tall fox all around her, and she said, kill the sound Nins. The foxes charged at the sound Nins. While this was going on, the Yukie thought, thank God Naruto planned for this, and bit her thumb and wiped blood across a seal on the underside on her chair arm, and suddenly shield barrier shot up every 10 feet, cutting everyone off in different sections. The foxes who were charging stopped instantly, but some of the sound neens were not as lucky and ran into the shield, instantly bursting into flames. Orochimaru chuckled and said, My, seems that my actions were anticipated a little. No matter, these shields won't hold me long, and then Queen, you and your children will be mine. As he began to do hand signs, and after a few seconds slammed his hand into the ground and the shield around him drop. He moved over and began the process again. The feudal lords looked scared a moment when suddenly they were covered in smoke, stopping Orochimaru's actions as he looked where people were disappearing in smoke, and when the smoke cleared they were gone. He frowned and looked around and saw the queen had a scroll. She kept wiping blood across, and every time she did the people in each section would disappear. He said, I see, each section's designed to allow you to evacuate them if need be. Impressive. As he began working even faster. In the elemental village, Itachi landed on his raven and people began running toward him. A man by the name of Murma asked, What's wrong, Itachi-sama? Itachi said, Prepare the village. The exams have been compromised. Evacuate the castle and prepare for the VIP to be summoned here. Murma said, Sir, yes sir. As he took off to alert the rest of the ninja in the village. Itachi frowned and began getting ready. Zabuza and Haku were running when a group of sound neens landed in front of them, and one of the sound neens said, Well, what do we have here? Looks like a wannabe swordsman and some little bitch. Zabuza looked at Haku, who both snickered, and Haku said, Go ahead, Zabuza-sama. I will take care of these guys. Zabuza said, Alright, Haku, but don't take too long. As he began to leave, one of the sound neens went to intercept, only for Haku to appear in front of him with a knee in the stomach as she said, I am your enemy now. The neen gasped for breath as his 4 teammates each began an attack. 2 of them began making hand signs, while another charged with a kunai, while the 4th pulled out a sword. Haku acted like she was frozen in place when the one holding kunais went to stab her, and she replaced herself at the last second with the one who was still gasping for breath. The effect was instantaneous as the kunai stabbed the man in the kidney. He fell to the ground holding his side as he started to die slowly and painfully. The one who stabbed him did not have time to react as Haku grabbed him by the neck and broke it from behind, only to be stabbed in the back herself. The sound neen smirked until he noticed she was not bleeding blood but water. At that moment Haku exploded and ice shards shot out of her body, killing the closest neen and wounding one of the 2 who had finished their hand signs looking for her. The one who was wounded screamed, Where are you, bitch? Haku said, Behind you. Before he had time to turn, he had a kunai implant itself in his head. The other sound neen said, finishing his jutsu, seeing Haku Sonic Scrambler no Jutsu. As he snapped his fingers, Haku instantly burst into water, and the neen said, Shit Mizu Bunshin. An ice mirror formed in front of him and he went to stab it with a kunai, and Haku appeared in the mirror and said, In here you can't touch me. However, as she threw senbons at him, hitting him in the heart, killing him. Haku stepped out of the mirror and took off toward where Zabuza was heading. Inside the tunnel, Tsunade said, Alright everyone, listen. I don't know what happened exactly beside the fact that Kumo appears to have summoned a good portion of their ninja to attack. I can only assume that we are their targets. We need to find a way to take out a large group of them and warn the others. Gaara sat down in a meditation position and held his hand out while he held the other over his eye. Sand started to swirl around in his hand and took the shape of an eye. Gaara then crushed the eye and the sand took off down the tunnel. Up at the entrance where Katsuya had destroyed it, the Kumo neens were all blasting the hole with different jutsu, trying to clear it where they could begin chase. One neen grabbed his eye and said, Damn dust in my eye. As he looked around a few seconds. Back inside the tunnel, Gaara stood up and said, Go, I will handle them. As he started to walk back the way they were running from. Tsunade said, But Gaara, Yukinchi felt a hand on her shoulder and saw Kankuro, who shook his head and said, He's right. Gaara has the best chance to stop them and live, or at least hold them off. We must warn the others. Come on. As he began running toward where their first camp was. Tsunade frowned and started following him, but looked back and saw Gaara, who looked serious, but also bored. Jiraiya slammed a Rasengan into the face of an Iwa neen. Chiza was already in his expanded body form, standing over 60 feet tall, while Shikaku was breaking necks of Iwa neens he captured with his shadow. Inoichi smirked as 10 men turned on each other and threw exploding tags at each of their partners before killing themselves. Kakashi, screamed White Chidori, as he swung his chakra phone through 2 Iwa Anins. For shouts of Getsuga was heard as 4 drills bore through 30 Iwa Anins only to stop long enough to reveal 4 Hana before they attacked another group. Jiraiya ducked under another attack when several snakes flew over his head and several screams could be heard. Jiraiya looked over and saw a smirking Anko and nods before he stabbed an Iwa Anin in the neck who tried to attack from behind. Naruto was moving through Nins while all they saw was a yellow blur from the Raijin that was in his hands as he killed anyone who got in his way. Running parallel lines from him were both Lee and Guy, who had got rid of their weights. Tenten was sitting on top of Kyubi, who was swapping tails at the Nins, while she tossed weapons at anyone who got near the king of the Bijou. Sum and her companion were both attacking anyone who tried to get on the Kyubi to get to Tenten. Naruto thought, "Come on Zabuza, hurry," as he slashed through the neck of a Rain Nin while dodging to the right of a root member. Zabuza finally reached the Rainbow Glacier and ran to where the hexagon crystal powered the generator to make spring in this country. He passed by that machine and ran to another that had been recently installed. He reached up and said, "Let's have some fun," as he pushed a button. Chapter 8. The Kumonins had just broke through the hole where they could follow the Konoha shinobi when a siren was heard going off in the distance. They all looked and saw something that looked like an avalanche heading toward them. The leader of the Kumonins screamed, "Hurry, into the tunnel before we are buried," as he jumped in. Everyone else, getting scared since spring country weather had been a mystery, all jumped in following their leader. They then began running down the tunnel, and after nearly 700 yards, the tunnel suddenly went dark and someone activated a flare and everyone looked around when a cold voice said, "Welcome to your graves. Desert quicksand." As the walls suddenly burst forward as sand rushed in on the men. Some men screamed and turned to run out the way they came, while others started to move toward the other end of the tunnel. They soon discovered the horrible truth, though, as the ground around them slowly filled in on them. A 1,000-yard area had been completely sealed off inside the cave, and it was indeed going to be their graves. Some tried to use jutsu, which caused the walls to cave in quicker. On the other side of the inside wall holding them, Ngara was panting, and thought, "Who said you needed demon to be a mass murderer?" As screams of rage and begs for mercy echoed inside the cave, getting quicker every moment. Kakashi was panting from using so many jutsu when a warning siren went off, drawing everyone's attention, and he saw a white mass heading toward them and quickly overtook them. Kakashi's eyes got wide a moment and smirked and popped a soldier pill in his mouth and said, "Hello my bitches, 8 points, larynx, spine, lungs, liver, jugular, subclavian artery, kidneys, heart. Now, which will be my attack points?" The sounds of screams echoed through the mist that now covered the area. Naruto was panting when the sirens went off and Naruto screamed, "Kyubi, silent killing." Kyubi roared echoed across the field as white mist covered the area. Silence echoed across the field when a voice said, "Welcome to hell boys and girls. I am your host, the White Ghost. Tell Shinigami I am going sending him a group discount today." Naruto smirked as he pulled up his mask long enough to pop in an Akimichi soldier pill, and as he swallowed it, he felt his chakra return and he closed his eyes and listened around him. Naruto then began making hand signs and screamed, "Kyubi now." Everyone was tense when another roar was heard, and then the white mist that was in the area was blown away, and Naruto finished his hand signs and said, "Taju Kage Kyubi no Jutsu." As everyone looked and saw Naruto standing on the head of Kyubi as 20 other Kyubis appeared, and they all began running around the field just stomping on all the Nins they could, as screams could be heard all across the field. It lasted around 30 minutes before all the Kyubis were gone, having been taken out or running out of chakra. Bodies lay everywhere, and Naruto was currently being supported by a tree with Lee and Guy sitting next to him. Tenten was on a limb above them tires as well, while Tsum was rubbing her companion's fur while sweating and said, "I have not fought that hard in year." "How many do you think survived?" Naruto said, "I figure about 300 are still around from our group. I saw Hinata summon disappear during the battle, so she must be out of chakra as well. Itachi hopefully has secured the village and Yukie evacuated the VIPs. For now, I am worried about the other 2 teams." A coughing sound was heard and everyone tensed and a voice said, "Relax. It's us, Gaki." Naruto looked over and saw Anko supporting Kakashi, who looked ready to drop, and the others looked dead tired. Naruto asked, "Where the hell have you guys been?" Jiraiya said, "Shut it, kid. Iwa summoned a huge number of their nins." Another voice said Kumo did as well. Naruto frowned and said, "Same here. Rain, Sound, and Rude all summoned a large group of people here as well. There should be more than 300 from our fight still around." As he looked around and saw Tsunade group look the best, but everyone was tired. Jiraiya frowned and said, "I say around 200 of our are still around. After we started slaughtering them they retreated." Sasuke said, "What's the plan, Dobe?" Naruto looked at Shibi and asked any info from you colonies. Shibi was quite a moment and said Itachi is currently in the village along with the VIP. It seems as if all of the nins I tagged are either dead or have retreated out of the walls. That is all I have. Naruto nods and said, "We need to make it to the village." Tsunade asked, "What about the castle?" Naruto said, "No, it's been abandoned." As he slowly stood up, Jiraiya frowned and asked, "Why?" Naruto said, "Same reason you all thought we should head there. It's defensible, but it has one major flaw that only someone who knows the inside of the castle would know." As he started to head toward the direction of the elemental village, Sakura asked, "What's that?" Naruto stopped and said, "It's not able to keep supplies for a large group of people over a few days." As he looked at them all before continuing walking, everyone seemed to think for a moment and Shikaku said, "So you mean that should anyone defend it, they would starve to death if they were to be trapped inside?" Naruto said, "Exactly, now let's go." As he tried to get everyone moving. Several hours later the group approached the gates of the village and all the Konoha shinobi were shocked to see around 600 nins defending the walls, and Naruto smirked and said, "Just because the village only has a small amount of people inside of the village does not mean all our forces are in one location." Itachi appeared and said, "How is everyone?" Naruto said, "Tired, how are our people?" Itachi said, "All villages have been abandoned with the emergency response plan and everyone is in the village walls. My summons have counted nearly 500 enemy nins still here on the island and they have taken over the castle." Naruto nods and asked, "What of the VIPs?" Itachi said, "All safe and sound. The queen was able to use the seal shield to get everyone here. Orochimaru is the one behind this." Naruto nods and asked, "What of my family?" Itachi said, "They are safe in the fortified shelters with all the other civilians." Naruto said, "Good, see to it that our men are rotated so they don't burn out. Our group needs some rest and resupplied. Bring up the real village." Itachi said, "Yes sir." As he disappeared in a swirl of leaves, Tsunade asked, "What real village?" Just then a whining noise was heard as the ground parted and several buildings began to rise, and everyone saw that among the building were towers that could be used to attack enemies on the ground. 20 men all dressed in white Umbu outfits appeared kneeling, and Naruto said, "Welcome to the true hidden elemental village." Chapter 9. To say every one of the Konoha nins were shocked would be an understatement. Jiraiya asked how. Naruto caught a scroll one of the 20 white Umbu through him and he started unsealing items from it and said Spring Country is not just the most fertile country in the world. It is also the most industrial as well. We have Yukie's father to thank for that. He spent the entire country's treasury researching ways to make it spring here. In doing so, he discovered a lot of other things that make the true hidden village you see before you real. Since I had a feeling something bad was going to happen, I had the village hide itself in the underground hangar. It was so you and anyone else who would be looking at the village would not deem us a threat until this whole mess was taken care of. Now report. As Naruto finished slipping on a new shirt as well as his Kage robes, and sealing the last of his battle cloths into the scroll, the one who threw the scroll said, "All preparations are complete, sir. Our entire force is ready to move on your orders, and as we suspected they took over the castle to use as a base of operations. All civilians have moved into their second homes here in the village and all security is ready should we be attacked, sir. We have already activated the secondary defense seals around the island." Naruto said, "Good, get everyone here checked out by our medics and treated and then have them moved to my estates so they may rest." "Where are my wife and children?" The man said, "They are safe and sound at your estates, your highness." Naruto nods and said, okay, it's time to lick our wounds for now. Tell all the VIPs that I will meet with them first thing in the morning. For now we wait and let the enemy set themselves in the castle to defend it. Tomorrow, at 10 a.m. I will give orders for battle. Dismissed. The 20 men all said sir, yes sir. As 10 of them left in swirl of leaves. The other 10 walked over and said, please follow us to the hospital. To the Konoha shinobi. Naruto walks away toward his estate as all the Konoha shinobi started to follow the 10 men. When Naruto got home, he was instantly tackled by Yukie, who kissed him passionately and held him tight. The sound of giggling could be heard and both Naruto and Yukie looked and noticed the older 2 of their children standing there, and Naruto kneeled down onto his knees and held out his hands and both his kids ran over and hugged him. Yukie asked, what happened? Naruto said it was a trap. I don't know at all, but it looks like everyone was working together to take us out. Gaara took out all of the Kumonins that came and the rest of us took a huge chunk out of the others, but they have taken over the castle now, and luckily everyone I brought are all safe but tired and wounded. They will be here in a little while. Yukie nods and said, it's good you planned for a double cross of this even if it was on this wide of a scale. The 2 children turned and went to play in the room. Naruto said, I know. I thought maybe an extra 50 at most. I had to use most of the island's defense systems that we had installed here activated to turn the tide. If it were not for our boss summons we would all be dead right now. The enshrouding mist from the second generator at the Rainbow Glacier, the secondary defense seals making it where each section of the island is divided so only this village and the castle can be damaged, the actual revealing of this village true looks as well as the VIP defense grid and summon seals in the VIP box around the battlefield. This is why I hate fighting. Too many things to worry about and try to outthink. I'm tired. Yukie smiled sadly at her husband and said, I know dear. Just a little longer and your duties to that village will be over. You can rest here after this is over and be with me and our children. Saying that with disgust, just then a baby waking up crying was heard and Yukie said, I guess one of them are hungry. Come on. You can change the diaper if that's what's wrong. As she helped him back to his feet. Naruto said, the story of my life. Always dealing with the shit. As he snickered a little. Yukie smiled and said, oh, you big baby, I had to deal with most of the time with the other 4. Naruto's smile faltered a little and said, I know. Look Yukie, he was silenced by a kiss, and she said when she broke it, I know. I understand and it will be okay. Now come on, I hear the other one now also. Naruto nods and follows her. A few hours later when the group from Konoha arrive they begin walking through the house and find Naruto in front of a fireplace with Yukie beside him with his arm around her and their backs to the couch beside them on a blanket are the 2 middle-aged twins. On the couch behind them are the 2 older children and just a few feet over is a crib with both babies asleep. No matter how hard they tried to find it they all had to smile at that scene. Itachi appeared and said, hello everyone. Please follow me and let them sleep. I will show you to your rooms. Everyone began to follow and Sakura asked Itachi-kun, why are you here? I mean, do you live here? Itachi said no, I came by to give a report to Naruto-sama but he was passed out back there and since I sensed you all arrive I decided to help him out. Sakura nods and as they were all separated into different rooms to rest, Naruto appeared in front of Itachi and said okay, what's up? As he yawned. Itachi who was walking back by where Naruto and his family were sleeping earlier saw Naruto was feeling one of the infants in a rocker and realized it was a Kage Bunshin he was talking to and said I came to tell you that Orochimaru has discovered the shield that prevents them from getting to the rest of the island. Naruto nods and said okay, anything else? Itachi thought and said yes, the Black Ops have finished going through the rest of the sections and eliminated all the remaining Nins that were trapped in each shield section of the island so we don't have to worry about any other Nins besides those at the castle. I gave everyone a guest room for you since you were all asleep. Also, I should tell you your sister has a crush. Naruto sweat dropped and said really, who? Itachi said Lee. Naruto face faulted and went up in smoke and Naruto who was burping the infant in his arms said Lee, okay. Did not see that one coming, oh well. As he continued to burp the infant. Itachi nods and leaves in a swirl of leaves, and Naruto said you can come out now Sakura. Sakura stepped out of the shadows and asked how. As she walked over to where he was. Naruto shrugged and said Itachi and I both sensed you. What's up? Sakura said well, I want to know something. Naruto repositioned the baby and asked, who are you? Naruto said I was wondering when one of you would ask something like that. With a small smile on his face. Naruto looked at his son and then at the rest of his family that was sleeping and said, to answer your question Sakura, I am Naruto. A father to my children, a husband to my wife, a brother to my sister, a leader to my people, a king to this country, a son to Shizune, a grandson to Jiraiya and Tsunade, a teammate to you, Kakashi, and Sasuke, a friend to many people, a hero to many people also, and an enemy to those who would hurt those I care for. That is who I am Sakura. Does that answer your question? Sakura thought for a moment and Naruto said Sakura, if you want to understand what I mean answer me a question first. Why did you become a ninja? Sakura said I wanted to prove I could to my parents and Ino. Later it was to get Sasuke attention and finally it was to save everyone. Naruto nods and said, do you know why I became a ninja Sakura? Sakura shook her head and Naruto said, because I did not have a choice. Everything in my life has been forced on me to be everything I am today, except for those things I told you earlier. My title of Hokage, the hate the village had for me, killing, stealing, starving, everything I know in my life has been forced on me until I was nothing but a shell. Finally, I started to make friends of my own, I later became a leader, I then became a lover and husband and father. It all started with a simple moment in my life. Do you know what the simple moment in my life that changed my life was Sakura? Sakura said no. Naruto said it was the day a stranger walked up to me as a 6-year-old child on the street and said 2 simple words that meant more to me than all the glares, hate, and all the other negative things I had to live with in my life. Those 2 simple words were thank you. That was the moment I realized no matter what I had to endure in life that I would endure it just to show that man that his thanks was appreciated. Sakura had a tear in her eye as she understood how that simple of a thing could change his life. It was at that moment she actually saw the real Naruto, and she understood why he was who he was, and why he wanted to just quit and be with his family. She smiled a real smile and said, thank you Naruto. For everything. She then turned and left. Naruto smiled and looked at the baby who was now asleep from him rocking the baby and whispered so, do you think all the ones listening got their answers little one? The infant turned its thumb up in and good job sign before sticking it in his mouth and Naruto couldn't help but smile at that. That night most of the Konoha people had a new look on Naruto. The next day Naruto walked into his office and saw all the feudal lords and the VIPs and Naruto said, sorry about the delay to see you all but after the battle yesterday, I had no choice but to recover from it and see to the treatment of my people. Now to bring you all up to speed. Currently Orochimaru, Danzo, and what is left of the Sound, Iwa, Rain, and Root members are in the castle on the island here. Our island security has made it where the rest of the island beside the castle and this village will not be involved in anything else, and the threats of loss of life in those other areas is 0 since everyone has been removed from them. I have received reports that spies from the unified force has been trying to determine the defense of this village, but they have all been silenced. Now I know this is not what you all had planned, and neither did I, but it appears as if those countries do not care about the contract that was agreed on as well as what any of you say. I know you're worried about your safety, but you are all safe in this village. I plan to deal with the threat at the castle, beginning shortly after I leave here. Do any of you have any important questions? The Fire Lord said yes, how did such a large force arrive here? Naruto said, when the actual battle started they waited until our group approached them and they had used the ceasefire to draw huge summoning circles which would have to have had a matching summoning circle wherever those teams were originally at, meaning for each of them to have done that all at the exact time and way means they planned this from the start and were prepared in advance. The only reason my team were not instantly killed were because of the strength of my team as well as our ability to summon. I say close to 700 give or take 400 men have already died. Anything else? The Lord of Vegetable Country asked, is there any way to negotiate a ceasefire? Naruto said, tell me, if you believe you have a large strike force, a fortified defense position, as well as having personal issues against most of the people you were fighting who were smaller in number, wounded, tired, and caught mostly unprepared, would you be willing to accept a surrender or would you rather just take them out so they can never show up again? All the lords knew the answer and remained quiet after that, and Naruto said, "All right, you have been brought up to speed. I will do everything I can to end this quickly and allow you to return to your normal lives. Now if you would excuse me, I have work to do." The lords each left after that, and Jiraiya, who dropped his invisibility cloak, said, "You are a great leader, kid." Naruto sighed and said, "Yeah, but I am tired." "How is everyone holding up, Gramps?" Jiraiya chuckled and said, "Good, for now. How about yourself?" Naruto said, "I will be fine soon." "So is everyone ready to fight again?" Jiraiya became serious and said, "Yeah, but they are also tired like you." Naruto said, "Yeah, but it will be over soon." "Tell me, Gramps, how long do you think it would take the summons to recover?" Jiraiya frowned and said, "I don't know. I know they are most likely still injured. Why?" Naruto said, "Nothing, just thinking. I guess the only way out of this is to get it over with." As he stood up out of the chair he was sitting in and started to leave, Jiraiya followed him to where all the ninja of the village, including the Konoha shinobi, were at, and Naruto said, "All right, everyone. It's time to deal with those who have came here to destroy us. Elemental ninja, you are to stay here and protect the village. This is not your fight. Konoha shinobi, I need 3 volunteers to aid me." The Konoha shinobi were shocked at this, thinking that first that this large group of ninja were going to aid them, and then Naruto to only ask for 3 volunteers. Tsunade said, "Oigaki, what the hell are you thinking?" Naruto said, "I just need 3 volunteers to help me." Jiraiya, Tsunade, and Gaara are out of the volunteers, though, because I need them to pull off the second part of my plan. Sasuke said, "Imandobe." Sakura said, "So am I." Kakashi said, "Why not?" as he stepped forward still reading his book. Naruto said, "So it sounds like Team 7 is reunited again." Tsunade said, "Kid, I'm not sending any of my ninja to do anything until you tell me what's going on." Naruto sighed and said, "All right, my plan is simple. I first want you, Tsunade, to go and to lead a team that can defend you and Gaara long enough where you can use your strength to destroy the bridge going to the castle. While you are doing that, I want Gaara to use his sand to force the enemy to fall back to the castle, where when you destroy the bridge, they will be forced to defend from the castle." Tsunade said, "Well, that's simple enough, but then what?" Naruto said, "That is where my team comes in. I have a way to force them to leave the castle, and if you notice what the castle is standing in the middle of a large chasm." So Tsunade said, "So you plan to destroy the castle?" Naruto said, "Nope, even better, but I don't want to ruin the surprise." Tsunade sighed and said, "Fine, at least the plan is simple enough and should work, but I don't like the idea of this." Naruto said, "Don't worry. Now Gramps, when the time comes, I want you to do what is on this scroll, and you will know when the time is right." As he handed a scroll to Jiraiya. Jiraiya opened it and looked questioningly and said, "All right, Gaki, but I don't like it." Naruto said, "Trust me." Chapter 10. Several hours later, Team 7 were using every ounce of stealth they knew to make their way through an underground cave. Naruto had explained to Team 7 his plan, and to say they were shocked was an understatement. Naruto was more fox than anything by proving his trickster side with his plan, and so now here they were making their way through a cave. Around 40 minutes later, Naruto, who was in front of the group, held up his hand and using Team 7 hand code told Sakura to move to the right tunnel, Kakashi to the left tunnel, and Sasuke to follow him down the middle tunnel. Each member took one last look at one another and moved down their separate tunnels. Back in the elemental village, the church bells rang, showing it was 3 p.m. Tsunade sighed and said, "All right, everyone, you know the plan, and Team 7 should be nearing their objective. Remember, time is of the essence. We have one shot on this plan working, so everyone move out." Blurs were all that was left where they once stood as they began heading toward the castle. 15 minutes later, Sakura found herself in a torch-lighted room made inside of the cave, and she noticed on the ground was engraved a seal. She looked at her watch to see what time it was, and thought 10 minutes. As she stepped into the middle of the seal, Kakashi was sitting on a seal reading his book, and thought just 10 minutes. Naruto and Sasuke came to another fork in the cave, and Naruto pointed to the left and Naruto started to go to the right, ignoring the center one, when Sasuke grabbed his shoulder and signed out, "Be careful and come back to your family alive." Naruto nods and mouthed, "Thank you," as the two men went down their own tunnel. Soon, they both found torch-lighted rooms just as Kakashi and Sakura had found and checked their watches and thought 5 minutes. Back with Tsunade and the rest of the Konoha shinobi, Tsunade saw a group of around 50 ninja heading toward them, and before she had a chance to say anything, sand shot past her heading toward the group on Nines. The Nines heard something heading toward them and saw a large group of ninja heading toward them and got ready to fight when a huge cloud of sand started to fly toward them at incredible speeds. They started to get out of the way of the sand when a huge fireball came flying through the sand, followed by a shout of "Kamaitachi" was heard, and the sand instantly parted as wind shot toward the men as well, overtaking the fireball and causing it to increase 10 times in size, killing nearly 30 of the men who were trying to figure out what to do as the sand had started to circle around them. Just then several shouts of "blood run" was heard, and 2 male-looking and 6 female-looking werewolves charged toward the remaining Nines and sliced through them like a sword through silk. The main group continued to charge through the carnage that was going on around them. The shouts of the men had alerted another group of around 15 men who were heading to relieve the first group, and 2 green blurs shot past Tsunade, who was taking point, intercepting the men with shout of "springtime of youth" echoing from the blurs. Tsunade thought as her troops continued past the green blurs and shouts of pain, "That's Hana, Kiba, Tsume, Lee, Guy, Sakura, Sasuke, Naruto, and Kakashi. That leaves me with Genma, Iruka, Itachi, Gaara, and Temari. Jiraiya will begin his move soon with his group from the south of the castle." Inside the cave, 4 watches beeped at that exact moment, and each member of Team 7 cut both their hands with a kunai and plunged them into the seal they were on while channeling chakra into them. Orochimaru was sitting on the throne of the castle and said, "So they have began to move." After he heard from one of his subordinates about the attack on the group, he then began to laugh and said, "Send out half of our forces to intercept Tsunade and her army." 4 figures blurred out of the room, and Orochimaru thought, soon everything will be mine." Just then 4 puffs of smoke erupted in the throne room, and all 4 members of Team 7 appeared, and Naruto said, "So I was right, Orochimaru is here." Orochimaru, shocked at first to see the intruders, laughed and said, My Naruto-kun, I see you have grown up and started a family. Tell me, when can I give your children their gifts?" As his tongue slithered out of his mouth as he said the last word, Naruto said, "Kakashi, Sasuke, Sakura, you know what to do. Orochimaru is mine." All 3 members nod and took off, running toward the wall on each side of the room before using chakra to climb them up to the ceiling and out onto the roof. Orochimaru watched them go and said, "Follow them and stop them." Several blurs that were concealed in the shadows began to run up the wall, following the members of Team 7. Naruto pulled out the Raijin in his hand and activated it, and Orochimaru opened his mouth and out popped a snake who spat out the grass cutter. Orochimaru then grabbed it and said, "Today you die, boy, but don't worry, your children will live on as my next vessels." Naruto slowly started to circle around Orochimaru, who had stepped off the throne, and also started to circle when an explosion was heard and both men charged each other. Up on the roof of the castle several moments before, as the 3 remaining members of Team 7 ran for the 3 pillars of the castle, 6 blurs shot out from behind them and appeared in front of them. Sakura narrowed her eyes as she looked at the face of 2 root members. She cracked her knuckles and charged at them as they both charged to meet her. Kakashi looked ahead and saw Danzo himself, but noticed that Danzo seemed to be healthier than before, as well as recovered his arm. Said, "Well, this should be interesting." As he pulled up his hayate and began making hand signs as both Danzo and the other root member who was with him began making their own. Sasuke looked bored as he looked onto the face of Sai and another root member and flared his Sharingan to life and said, "Today is the day you die, traitor." Sai said, "Bring it, dickless," as he quickly drew a tiger. Sasuke threw a kunai in his hand that barely missed the tiger but had an exploding tag on it, which exploded, destroying the painting. He then began flashing through hand signs and grabbed his wrist as a Chidori appeared before charging the unknown root member and stabbing him through the heart, only to be stabbed in the back by Sai. Sasuke smirked and said, "Say boom," as he exploded and Sai burst into paint. The real Sai and Sasuke met each other in a taijutsu fight. Naruto dodged the fireball Orochimaru spat at him as he shot airballs at Orochimaru. Both of their swords lay on the ground on the other side of the room. Naruto appeared behind Orochimaru, who shifted his body to avoid the claw strike from Naruto to his back. Orochimaru then elbowed Naruto in the ribs only for Naruto to burst into a puddle of water. Just then the water took the shape of a shark and attacked Orochimaru point blank, tearing him in half only for Orochimaru to melt into mud. The sound of flesh meeting flesh echoed across the room as Naruto and Orochimaru fought each other head to head. Tsunade was nearly to the castle when a siren went off inside the castle, and suddenly she could sense several chakra signatures heading out of the castle. She took a deep breath and thought, please Jiraiya, be on time. As she continued to head toward the castle, Gaara said, should I begin now, Tsunade? Tsunade shook her head, no, and Gaara frowned, having sensed the chakra signatures as well. Jiraiya and his group were shadowing Tsunade running across the ice bridges Naruto had shown them when they first arrived at the castle coming from the south. Each member of his team had a seal tag on them, hiding their chakra from everyone. Jiraiya frowned as he heard the Hyuga reports on Tsunade group each time they encounter group after group, and then he felt the chakra signatures in the castle begin to leave, and he said, alright, it's time. As each of the Hyuga each summoned a falcon the size of a horse jumping on the bird's back, except for Hinata, instead of her jumping on the bird's back it was 10-10 and all three birds took flight into the air. Jiraiya saw the castle getting closer and saw explosions on top of the castle as well, and he thought, I hope your plan works, Gaki. Tsunade group had just broke through the tree line of the forest, seeing men charging toward her group with already close to 100 nines across the bridge, and she said, Gaara, no. Gaara-san shot out again, this time making a huge wave heading toward the men, forcing them to stop their charge. Just then exploding tags rained down just away from the group of men who were charging to the north to attack Tsunade, and everyone looked up and noticed three birds basically gliding in a spot in air as kunais rained down with tags, making any chance to escape that way a death trap. Seeing the sand charging toward them and the exploding death cutting off their escape route, the men had no choice but to start running back inside of the castle. At that moment, hearing from Hinata what is happening, Jiraiya instantly summons Gamabunta and the remaining Konoha nines with him jump onto the toad's head, and they charge toward the castle. On top of the castle, the roof has been mostly destroyed thanks to Sakura's super punches of death as she sliced the head off of her last enemy with her father's sword. She then ran toward her objective of one of the three turrets towers. Sasuke coughed up blood as he removed the sword in his rib that Sai had ran through him as he finished the boy off with a Chidori. It took a suicide run into the sword to be able to hit the boy, and Sasuke could feel the blood entering his lunges, so he used one of the few medical jutsu he had copied from Kabuto to heal the wound enough to stop the blood flowing in, but he would be sick and weakened until he could get proper medical care as he ran for his tower he had to get to. Kakashi was having a field day. He sliced the root nin up no problem and then cut off both Danzo arms and legs, and now he was sitting in the tower with Danzo body watching as Sasuke and Sakura headed for their tower, cutting off Danzo limbs every time they started to grow back, and Danzo screamed, I hate you, Kakashi. Kakashi said, the feeling's mutual, but I must say, this is almost better than Ica Paradise. It's a great stress reliever. As he chopped the regrowing arms and legs again, Gaara-san formed a wall on the bridge, slowly pushing toward the castle gates, and the enemy nines were backing away from it, having no way to jump over it or around it since it blocked them. As it became flush with the gates of the palace, Tsunade ran over and kicked the bridge with all her might, destroying it as she jumped back away from the falling slabs of brick that fell into the chasm below. Inside the palace, Naruto and Orochimaru were trading jutsu like it was free music downloads on the internet. Anyone unlucky enough to get near them died. This was nothing more than a contest to see who had the most jutsu. Orochimaru said, I must say, boy, I am impressed. If it were not for the Kyuubi, I would take you as my vessel. As he shot a mud dragon at Naruto. Naruto's watch started to beep and Naruto smirked and said, guess what, Hibi? Time's up. As made a sword of wind, cutting the dragon in half, and he took off running back toward the throne room where the fight had ventured from. Up in the towers, the watches of Team 7 started to go off and Kakashi said, down. Playtime's over. As he cut off the head of Danzo with his sword and saw that the body was not growing back since the talisman was destroyed. He stood up and grabbed the bell that was in the tower and struck it with the ringer. Sakura took that moment to strike hers, and it sounded different than Kakashi. After Sakura rang, Sasuke hit his, also making a unique sound, and then when silence took over, all three bells rang together one last time, making a very unique sound. Gambuda, who had landed at what was left of the bridge entrance, took a deep breath and shot out as much water as he could toward the castle. As the sound waves from the bells hit the water, everyone could see what appeared to be a dome starting to appear, grabbing the water and shaping it. Haku, who was on top of Gamabunta, began using her bloodline to change the water into ice as it continued to form a dome as more and more water was added. Jiraiya screamed, "If you know any Suiton jutsu, use them now, and aim for the castle." Across the island, as the bells sounded in the castle, Queen Yukie sighed and said, "And so winter returns." As she removed the hexagonal crystal from the generator. As she did so, a cold wind took hold and started blowing across the land as snow began appearing on the ground. Just like when she started the generator all those years before, and it instantly warmed the island, it now reclaimed the island in the same fashion. Naruto ran as fast as he could into the throne room, with Orochimaru slithering as fast as he could after him. Up the walls, Naruto ran and onto the roof as Orochimaru burst through the ceiling, cutting off his escape route. Circling the tower, the three giant falcons swooped down by each of the towers as Kakashi, Sasuke, and Sakura all jumped onto the summon, taking flight. Orochimaru said, "Why retreat now, boy? Scared of me?" As he tried to figure out what is going on. Naruto took off running toward the edge of the castle, only for Orochimaru to cut him off again. Naruto thought, "Shit, I gotta get out of here before it's too late." As he glanced across the island and saw the snow reclaiming the island. Orochimaru, who had retrieved the grass cutter while chasing Naruto, pulled it back out of his mouth and said, "Now, boy. I don't know what you have planned, but it will fail and you will die here today." Naruto, who was backing up, said, "You will die here today, Orochimaru, and nothing you say or do will stop it." As he continued to back up, Orochimaru saw something change real fast in the corner of his eye and saw the land changing to snow and asked, "What is that, boy?" Naruto smirked and said, "The cold-handed death snake." As he turned and ran as fast as he could, leaping into the air over the chasm. Orochimaru gave chase but stopped before jumping off the roof and looked at Naruto, who had put his hands out beside him and was now falling straight into his death in the chasm below. Orochimaru thought foolish. As he turned to try and figure out what was happening. Just then a whining noise was heard and Orochimaru turned to look and saw Naruto in some kind of black armor with two rocket wings on his back, and he smirked before flipping Orochimaru off as the wave that was reclaiming the island hit the castle, and everyone who was outside of the castle could see that the dome that was making around the castle was now falling into the chasm below as it stopped moving. Orochimaru shot out a snake from his sleeve at Naruto, and Naruto dodged out of the way, watching as the ice dome fell into the canyon below, and Naruto said, "Hey snake. Ever wonder why this country was always winter no matter what in the past before spring came here a few years back?" Orochimaru began making hand signs ignoring Naruto, and Naruto said, "Because the entire island is nothing but one giant self-contained freezer." As he flew high into the air. The moment the ice dome impacted with the chasm floor, a seal appeared glowing, and the rocks that held the castle up began being covered in ice as it made its way up the walls, going all the way up. Inside the castle, as the wall of ice passed by the floor, the castle walls all began to glow with seals that were hidden began appearing, and all the men inside began to scream as they were incised in blocks of ice. On the roof, Orochimaru summoned a giant snake and was sitting on the snake's head as Naruto dodged the snake as it tried to bite him, and Naruto saw the ice wave hit the roof and then move to where the summon was and move up the summon, making it scream in pain as Orochimaru, noticing what was happening for the first time, jumped off the head of the snake as it was frozen solid. And using his tongue grabbed a hold of Naruto's leg and said with his tongue out, "Now boy, I will kill you." As a snake came out of his mouth and started to climb his tongue toward Naruto, who began flying higher and higher into the air. The snake got close enough to strike Naruto as he continued to go higher, and it set up on Orochimaru's tongue and opened its mouth, and the grass cutter popped out and it dove toward Naruto. In that instant, Orochimaru heard a voice in his head of Kabuto saying, "Now I have my revenge, master. Your mind has been getting weaker and weaker, making you overlook obvious things, and now you die by my hands." Instant clarity hit Orochimaru as Kabuto's spirit faded away and he realized how he ignored the danger. It was at that moment he saw the snake strike toward Naruto's heart and... Chapter 11. Down below outside the castle, the Konoha shinobi saw the chasm light up for some reason, and ice began to travel along the support that held the tower up, and it made its way up into the castle, encasing it in ice and snow. The shouts of people screaming on the inside echoed across the chasm, and Ibiki asked what's happening. Itachi said it's the reason why there is always snow here before. A seal was placed in the canyon by the founder of this country. Before that time this island was nothing but a volcanic island. To stop it they created a seal to freeze the entire island to stop the volcano, however they made a mistake when they made it. They could not stop the seal from freezing the entire island, which is why when the generator was shut off the entire island started to freeze back however. Tsunade turned and asked, however what? Itachi said, when Naruto was here the last time before he knocked his wife up the third time one of the kids fell off the bridge from the castle that you just destroyed. In an act of desperation, Naruto jumped off the bridge, catching her, and he summoned Kyubi to cushion the fall below. When he landed Kyubi was trapped and could not move. Naruto looked and noticed the seal glowing. Kyubi turns out knew of someone who knew the secret of this island and the seal and told Naruto where to go. Tsunade asked, I take it that this someone was a demon. Itachi said yes, a minor demon called Shiva. She has the ability to control snow and ice and has been to this island before when she traveled from her home. Naruto met her and she gave him a book that told of the seal she found here and her investigation, which is how we know the history of it. With it Naruto knew of the second ability of the seal, which is what we just did. Tsunade saw the 3 falcons flying close to them to land and then saw a snake appear and Naruto flying in front of the snake as it began to freeze and Orochimaru using his tongue to catch Naruto as they started to fly higher and higher. Jiraiya who had been listening asked, and exactly what is the second feature of the seal? Itachi saw Naruto flying higher and said in case the volcanoes ever became active again the seal can have ice and chakra, which was one of the few common jutsu of the people who settled here knew to use, and it would save the castle from the lava by freezing it. However, the only problem with that is Tsunade said it freezes anything in the castle as well, living or not. As she saw the snake shatter and fall to pieces. Itachi nods and Sakura asked, what is Naruto doing? Can anyone see him? Hayashi said he is extremely high and Orochimaru has a snake summon who has the grass cutter in its mouth ready to strike Naruto, resulting in both their deaths. With a grim look on his face as everyone stared, shock with hope and fear on their face. Up in the sky, the snake dove toward Naruto who gasped as it hit him in the heart and Orochimaru screamed "No!" as he saw the engines shut off and they began to fall. As they fell Orochimaru thought, well, at least I take the Kyubi brat with me. The Konoha shinobi all screamed out when they heard Naruto was stabbed and the 2 started to fall. As they fell Sasuke screamed Hinata, summon another falcon, quick. Hinata said no, making everyone look at her shocked. Sasuke ran over and grabbed her and began shaking her and asked why, he's going to die if we don't save him. Hinata smiled and said, no he won't, look. As she pointed over toward the chasm as Orochimaru and Naruto fell into the chasm. Everyone ran over to the edge of the chasm screaming Naruto, except Hinata. As they looked down, they saw someone sitting on the wall, looking down at the 2 falling people eating a bucket of popcorn, and he said great show, huh? As they all gaped and looked back and forward between the 2 falling shinobi and the man who was sitting there who had red hair, violet eyes, and a smile on his face. As the 2 bodies hit the ground below the man said and so, Naruto Uzumaki, Jinchuriki of the Kyubi no Kitsune and Rokudaime Hokage of Konoha dies killing Orochimaru and saving the village. The noble king of Snow Country Naru Kazahana asked all those who witnessed the death of such a noble man to be silent as to where the hero of Snow Country was buried so he may rest for all eternity. As he turned and stood up walking up the side of the chasm and onto the top of the chasm. Tsunade who had tears in her eyes said Naruto, are you okay? The man said I'm sorry Tsunade-san. But did you not hear, Naruto Uzumaki just died. I am Naru Kazahana, husband of Koyuki Kazahana. I am sure you are all emotionally distressed seeing someone you all care for die like that, and I offer my apologies and would offer you all free travel rights to come and go in my country whenever you wish as long as you do not pose a threat to my country. I would like to hear more about the person who saved my wife's life. Now if you would like to escort me back to my village, I would like to inform my people that the threat to our home is over. I am sure now you can return to Konoha and inform the council about the boy's death as well as your village's continued existence, our thanks to the fallen hero. Now he can rest in peace without worrying about the threats to his family and himself from his enemies foreign and domestic. Shikamaru said I see. We are sorry for the misunderstanding, Your Highness, about not recognizing you. You just look so much like our departed friend that we had hoped he survived. Since you straightened out this for us, we avoided an incident where the council might have thought you were him as well and declared you a missing nin. Each of the Konoha shinobi held their head down, realizing this is what Naruto meant when he said he was never returning to Konoha. Each had a small smile on their faces as they walked back to the village. 3 weeks later, Tsunade stood on the Hokage Tower, having just finished telling how the Rokudaime Hokage of Konoha had saved the village, thanks to the traitor Danzo, and how thanks to the people of Snow Country they were able to be free from slavery, as well as stopping the revived Orochimaru. As she listened to some cheer the demon's death and other mourn his lose, she said, I have one final thing to say. You can all go to fucking hell. I resign as Hokage, and I will never return to this village. You are all nothing but a disease that should be killed. Each of the founders of this village would be sickened by you all. I have spoken with several people before this announcement, and Konoha has lost the Yamanakas, the Nara, the Akimichi, the Aburame, the Inuzuka, the new united Hyuga clan after Hinata, Hayashi, Niji assassinated the Hyuga council and unified their family, as well as the Uchiha family, and yes, we ran into Sasuke Uchiha on this mission, and he has joined another village over your treatment of someone he considered family, as well as several business, your alliance with Sand, Wave, Snow, Bird, Bear, Demon, Moon, Star, Rice, Sea, Tea, and Waterfall Country, as well as the support of the Fire Lord himself, who is sickened by someone who is obviously a hero. I hope you have a long miserable life. Goodbye. As she jumped into the air and summoned Katsuyu and said, get me out of this hell hole and don't worry about the damage. Katsuyu destroyed a good portion of the buildings in her way out of the village as everyone stood shocked by what had just happened. A civilian council member said, what are we to do? Just then Kyubi appeared out of a puff of smoke standing on the top of the Hokage monument, and he said while releasing massive waves of Ki, enjoy your lives little humans, because those who harmed my vessel are going to be joining me in hell, and I will love playing with you all for all eternity. As he used his tails to destroy the Hokage monument before going up in smoke. Naruto thought, and so the mighty tree has fallen. I had planned on just leaving them be, but after my death, the clans of Konoha asked to be allowed to join the elemental village. At least now I really can be truly happy with not only my family but my friends as well. As he walked over to his wife, who had been hiding in the trees behind the Hokage monument, he then kissed her and said, let's go home. I'm sure mom and sis are getting tired of babysitting. Yukie smiled and said, you know, we could go on another honeymoon. As she rubbed her hips into his, Naruto smiled and thought, well, I guess I'm going to be a dad again someday. As he pulled her into a kiss, before they both left in a swirl of leaves. The end.
Thank you for your views, likes, subscriptions, and overall support of my ongoing efforts to bring great content to all of you. Check out my Patreon for more mature fanfiction. The link is in the description and like everywhere on my channel.